Good afternoon, everybody. This is the DVMUG Zoom meeting. It's Tuesday, November 15th, right? And today we have special guests. We have Adam Engst from Tidbits and Chuck Joyner from Mac Voices. They're going to join us, and we're going to have a discussion about whatever they think is the current topic. Go ahead. Take it away.
Well, Adam Snow is the current topic for me here, but I don't think they want to hear about that. So
yeah, right. Winter kicked in hard in the last 3 days. You know, we had 75 degrees last Sunday on the 6th, and then this Sunday, you know, dropped to 30 and snowed. So yep, that's it. That's New York for you.
Right there with you. I feel like we should probably just touch on what some might perceive as the elephant in the room, and that is some changes at Tidbits. And
that's
what that means to you.
Because the inside baseball of staffing things at Tidbits is, I'm sure, what everyone has been dying to know.
No. Yeah, but look, let's be fair about it. I mean, anything or anybody associated with Tidbits is pretty high profile in the Apple community. So I think it deserves a comment.
Well, and we have been cruising through managing editors. I mean, we've now been around for 32 years, and Josh Centers, as you may have seen, just stepped down as our third managing editor. So we're averaging 10 years a managing editor now. So, you know, this revolving door has got to stop.
So are you assuming those duties temporarily? Is that your thinking? Or
well, I mean, honestly, so to be completely clear, this was, you know, an entirely mutual decision. Josh and I, you know, sort of both simultaneously. It's like, we think we might want to do some things a little differently on a phone call, and it turned out that it worked out. But basically, he'd been doing it for, you know, managing editor for almost 10 years. He'd been, you know, writing for Tidbits for 10 years. And, you know, he sort of done all the things that he wanted to do, and, you know, felt like he was just kind of spinning his wheels a little bit with the constant, as our friend Jason Snell calls it, the news treadmill. You know, there's just always more things happening that you feel the need to report on, but really, does it matter? And certainly when Tidbits started, I mean, keep in mind, we've been doing this since 1990. When Tidbits started, it was really important that we covered news items, because that was a lot of the way that people found out about the news. I mean, you know, when the very earliest issues of Tidbits, the entire point of them was to summarize what was happening in Mac Week and InfoWorld and PC Week, things like that. You know, people who did not receive the free news magazines, because the only way to receive them was to lie like a demon on their application forms and claim you were responsible for hundreds of Macs, and then they would send it to you for free. But lots of people didn't do that, so they didn't get the magazine. But, you know, the times have changed, and, you know, we've already gone from, you know, the fact that we were faster than the paper magazines to being, you know, as a weekly publication, slower than, you know, the websites which don't really have a publication concept. They're just constantly posting articles at all times. And more recently, you know, I mean, it's not that they haven't covered technology, but I would say more recently, publications like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, you know, when Apple's the most valuable company in the world, the biggest publications pay attention to their news. So, you know, we're not just competing against the likes of Macworld and MacUser from the old days, you know, who were bigger, sort of more substantive publications than we were. We're competing against, you know, the most respected newspapers in the world. And it's just not possible. You know, I mean, put bluntly, you know, there's very little we can write that they can't and haven't, probably better than we could have in terms of sourcing materials, having resources. I don't know if you guys see these. Joanna Stern, who's the personal technology columnist for the Wall Street Journal, does wonderful videos. They're really well done, but she's got the resources of the Wall Street Journal behind her. You know, even if I wanted to do that kind of stuff, my videos would never be half as good as hers, because I can't bring to bear that level of production quality and resources and, you know, people and money and all of that. So, and that's fine. You know, like I don't need to compete with everybody. So long story short, I think the reason why so when we're actually not not going to have a managing editor for a while is that we're not going to be doing nearly as much news stuff. People are already finding that elsewhere. We're not adding any significant value because we don't know any more than anyone else does. And so we're going to, focus on the things where we can really make a difference, say things that are not being said elsewhere, and really do some cool things. I just posted an article, in fact, an hour or so ago. One reader wrote to us about some problems he'd been having with upgrading to Ventura because he didn't have enough free space on his drive. And that was interesting because it shouldn't let you upgrade if you don't have enough free space on your drive, and how much is enough, and all these other questions. And so, this one email message, a couple of hours later turned into, I think, a useful little article where I figured out what the number is and how do you determine the number in terms of free space, because that's not nearly as easy a thing to look up as it used to be. The Finder does not always report the proper number, and things like that. So that's a situation where I think I was able to really provide some information that was not widely available, and I think people will find it useful.
I might disagree with you a little bit on your opinion of your own content, because I feel like you all offer a good perspective on the news as opposed to just reporting it. And I think there's a lot of value add there, but that's just the way I read it. And maybe I'm biased.
And I think situations where there's useful opinion, or where our experience can play in, we'll still write about it. It's more that, I don't know, Apple announces, well, I mean, I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with these, but, like a new version of, iOS and iPadOS come out. It's a security update. All we know is what's written in the security notes. I feel like I'm not adding any value to tell you there's an update, which your iPhone or iPad will tell you, and they will tell you. The devices will tell you exactly the same thing that I know. So, it's not. I don't feel like there's much I can say there that's really going to go above and beyond. Now, on the other hand, if there's an update and we hear that people are having troubles because they installed it and it's got some funkiness going on, that's something that's useful to tell people because they couldn't find that out any other way. So I think that's going to be kind of a little the guiding factor is, is there more here than, is just obvious by going with what you've been told by your device or your app or whatever.
Yeah. The phrase useful opinion is a really interesting one in the world today. And that's a whole nother discussion we better not do right now. we'll end up being sued for slander.
Useful. That's not useful.
Yeah, really. I never thought, though, that you and I would ever be doing a show in front of a user group or anywhere else and talking about your shopping habits. But here we are.
When I shop once every 3 years, I think it's news. So,
well, yeah, that's
Adam's gone shopping. Quick.
Yeah. And I don't have exactly the same hassles getting to an Apple store that you do. My closest one is about 50 minutes away. And I mean, it's an easy drive, but it's just not the kind of thing you do just to go. If I need to go, I'll go. And so but you have, it's been 3 years since you set foot in an Apple store.
It might've been more than that. I honestly don't remember. It hasn't happened since the pandemic. And so, I can't remember in 2019, what I might've done, but it's possible that I went to an Apple store sometime then.
Okay. So what happened when you finally
part
made
of
the
it
trip?
is, and actually, I think there's one thing to point out here though, which is that, and I've gotten away with it, right? Like the internet is a useful thing. I don't feel as though it wasn't like I didn't know about any of this stuff. I mean, these were all products that have come out and that I've written about. The specs are online. You can read all about what they're about. From the manufacturers, there's often good pictures. You know what it looks like. But, and this is the but, and that's where you're going. Is like, is it always enough? I mean, the internet is great. Online information is great. No questions about it. But it's not always enough. And that's kind of what I discovered.
From what standpoint was the internet not enough?
a number of things, a number of products. It's, the term that I kind of I settled on was physicality. That you want to know what it feels like. So, I'm sitting here holding this is an iPad, 10.5-inch iPad Pro with a smart keyboard. Does this little flippy thing. Poof, there's my keyboard, and poof, it's a case. That's the physicality of this device. And the keyboard was always on this device. It still is, because it's actually easier to hold with the keyboard on it. It's not as slippery. The keyboard doesn't work anymore. But what I was interested in is if I go to the Apple Store and try on an Apple Watch Ultra, how big does that feel on my wrist compared to my Series 5? Does it look funny? And what about Tanya's wrist? Her wrist's a lot smaller than mine. And then with the iPad keyboards, the smart keyboard that I like on this one, well, that's only still compatible with the 9th generation iPad that's still for sale, but now a year old. The 10th one has its own Magic Keyboard Folio. Then there's the Magic Keyboard and a Smart Keyboard Folio for the iPad Air and the iPad Pro models. So this is kind of interesting, well, if I was going to get a new iPad, which one would I want to get? And a lot of that is the feel of it. And that's something you can't figure out online.
Okay. I've had the same experience with the watch. And I've also, I guess this is a bit older, but I also had that experience with the M1 iMac when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what I expected, but it just was a lot more, it was a lot sleeker, I guess, than I expected. I mean, we can even start there if you want, but I mean, the M1 iMac, man, it came out April of 2021, and looking at the specs, now by that time I had an M1 MacBook Air, and it was the exact same chip. So I'm like, okay, this thing is going to perform brilliantly. The M1 is an amazing chip. My M1 MacBook Air here, which I have a nice little case on it, vinyl cover on it. This is a great machine. Absolutely adore it. And so, okay, if the iMac is going to be that kind of performance, that's great. But 24 inches, that's a weird number. Why is it 24 inches? And you can't see this, and I can't show you. I'm working on a 27-inch iMac, and I've used a 27-inch iMac every day since 2014 when it shipped. I also have over here a 27-inch Thunderbolt display, so I have two 27-inch monitors up, and one of them is that Retina. So the Retina display on the 27-inch iMac is absolutely gorgeous, and it has been gorgeous since 2014. I'll note, since it's not a new thing. So during all that time, Apple had the 21.5-inch iMac, and frankly, it was always kind of lame. I mean, 21.5-inch iMac was, it was really pretty small. And for quite a while, it didn't even have a Retina screen. I can't remember. At some point, they added a Retina screen, and so it was at least a high quality screen. But so when the 24-inch comes out, my reaction was, oh, that's the new small one. And the small one has never been that good. Particularly, I don't know if you guys remember this, for the longest time, Apple kept the 21.5-inch iMac in the lineup with a hard drive. It was like we actually, I wrote articles saying, do not buy this machine. Whatever you do not buy this machine. You will hate it. That putting a hard drive in a machine, and this is well after SSDs were across the rest of the line. And Apple is doing it to make it as cheap as possible. Like, do not buy this machine. This is a horrible machine. So, so that was kind of my opinion about the smaller iMac. Well, it might be okay, but it's not as good as the 27. So I go and look at one. And you know what? It was pretty impressive. It's a 24-inch screen. So yes, it's physically a bit smaller, but it's what Apple calls it a 4.5K Retina display. And so turns out it's 320 pixels smaller in one direction and 180 in the other. So that's really not a lot. And that's at its default resolution. And you can use in the displays panel, display system preference pane, you can just bump that up so that it's exactly the same number of pixels
as the 27-inch iMac. And you know what? It was totally readable at that resolution too. So I went from, thinking, oh, the 24-inch iMac, that's probably a good home machine, to thinking, oh, I could actually see working on one of these, as a professional. And I, at this point, the only thing that I would say about the 24-inch iMac is, boy, it'd be nice if they would put some faster chips in it, given the fact that they've got them, the M1 Pro, the M1 Ultra, or the M2. So I think that'll probably happen. I mean, come April this year, what are the odds we're going to have an M2 iMac? Seems pretty high. So, again, an impressive machine, looked really sleek, was super fast, and it was not what I was expecting based on sort of previous experience. So that was what the utility of going there in person was.
That's a good point, because I think I had a similar experience, that the 21.5 had been, or 21 or whatever it was, had always been like, yeah, that's for amateurs, and I really am not. I'm
nice
really,
snack.
yeah, exactly. Really not quite into it. And but when I looked at the M1 iMac, to your point, I'm not a candidate for it because I want more power in it. But for most of the people I know, I could easily say, hey, this is a great machine. Go for it.
Yeah.
And gorgeous screen
Absolutely.
and more power than most of you will use, unless you're, doing something advanced with photos or video. So.
And cheap. The iMacs have always been a deal and a half for the screen you get. That's the thing. So I, in fact, went from the 24-inch iMac, walked around the table to look at the 27-inch studio display, because that was the big deal, right? Okay, they've dropped the 27-inch iMac completely, and sort of the replacement is, Mac Mini or Mac Studio connected to a studio display. Okay, so how good is the studio display? Well, here I was a little disappointed. And it wasn't that it wasn't good. It was. It was exactly as good as my 27-inch iMac. But for $1,600 to $2,000, I want better than my iMac. For just the monitor, that it is at a price level, studio display is kind of expensive. And so, that's a little disappointing. And, I say, I didn't really have any problem with the actual thing, the actual monitor, it was 27 inches. It looked big. It was beautiful. Far as I could tell, the camera was pretty good. People had trouble with the cameras for a while, and I don't know if that's gone away. People have stopped talking about it, but Apple's had a couple of firmware updates. And so, I don't have anything against it, except that, $1,600 or $2,000 price. And the difference is it's $2,000 if you want the height adjustable stand. I'm like, really, Apple, $400 to be able to move it up and down 2 inches? So, that's, again, seeing it in person didn't really quite change my opinion there, but it did confirm that, there's nothing wrong with this, except, how much do you want to spend on a monitor?
I'm not sure what all hardware you actually have there at hand, but
27-inch iMacs coming out my ears. See,
okay.
Literally. There we go. There's one. And there's another one on the opposite side of my desk. So I really like the 27-inch iMac. I'm telling you.
Okay, well then, let's see what else. Mac Studio. Did you get to look at the Mac Studio and any particular impressions there?
I did. And I guess the close. I didn't even include this in the article, the Mac Mini or the Mac Studio. The only thing that struck me was they were a little bigger than I kind of expected in height, in width, and then this Mac Studio was just sort of double the size of the Mac Mini. So it kind of fell into the category of, yeah, whatever. It didn't really. It's not something where I ever felt like it was going to be, they were going to take up a certain amount of space, and I did, when I saw them in person, I'm like, yeah, that's about that amount of space. I think it's different from the previous Mac Minis. It's a little bit, I think it's larger and wider, or like wider and shorter. Can't remember. I have to look at the specs. That I could do online. But Part of the thing about going and looking in person was the Mac Studio in person is just a box. You don't interact with the Mac Studio as a box. You plug things in and it sits in the background. So I wasn't too interested in that. I mean, I had a feeling it was going to perform well, but you're an Apple store, you can't tell how it performs. I could barely type on the things because you're standing up at this weird height, and everything's not normal, so you couldn't really tell. Now the products where it made a real difference to be able to see and feel them were things like the Apple Watch and the iPads and iPad keyboards. And I was also I was interested in I have a wallet case. You can see here, it holds my cards and things like that. And I've been paying attention to that space because I really like not having to carry a separate wallet. And so I was curious about Apple's MagSafe wallet, and which is pops on the back via magnets. And so being able to touch that was also interesting. I decided that it probably held on well enough because it's kind of attaches right here on the phone. The problem was it came off and moved easily enough that I was pretty sure that I would have it in my pocket and just be sitting there kind of fiddling with it all the time and moving it back and forth. I was like, probably that's not a good look. So but it was useful, right? I mean, Apple's MagSafe wallet is $59, and the leather case that it sort of is compatible with is another $59. So no, I'm not going to spend $118 to see if this thing works for me. Especially when this case I got from Smartish is only $40. So,
the last one in the lineup I can think of is the HomePod Mini. And I know you definitely cannot listen to a HomePod Mini in an Apple store because there's just no point. But and I don't know if you had one before. Any thoughts on what that felt like?
So we just looked at those. So we do have a HomePod Mini and two HomePods, and I have not. I mean, I'm not enough of a. Tanya uses the HomePod Mini, so she pays attention to that more. But my sense of it was that it was it was not as good as the HomePod, but not problematically in any way. You could tell the difference, but if you just heard the HomePod Mini, you didn't think, oh, that's a problem. Where it's not like some cheap tinny Bluetooth speaker where you're like, yeah, that doesn't sound very good. No, the Apple Watch Ultra was kind of the main reason why we went, because it's freaking huge, right? I mean, it is a beefy thing, and Apple has done really well with the Apple Watch so far in making it accessible to people of a wide range of sizes. So, even the very first ones, Apple gave you 3 band pieces so that, you'd have one on one side, and then you could choose the short band or the long band for the other side, depending how thick your wrist was. And that actually made a difference for a lot of people because, if you had a really big wrist, you needed the long band. If you had a really small wrist, the big band was going to be ridiculous. And so I was really kind of intrigued by the Apple Watch Ultra, which is, it's a 49 millimeter screen, compared to, I think, what are the Series 8s, 45, 44? I can never quite remember the last one. It changes a little bit every now and then. And I have, there's 40 and 40, I think it's 40 and 44. And I have the 40 here, and it's the right size for my wrist, I think. So I was thinking 49 is going to be really large, and is that a problem? And this was, again, very much I would really recommend anyone thinking about an Apple Watch Ultra, go try it on, unless you have, unless you're just a big person with really thick wrists, where it's yeah, no problem. But I tried it on, and I think it would work. The answer was yes, this is okay, but it was not obvious that it was okay ahead of time. And then when Tanya tried it on, the answer was, well, that looks stupid. You could see, it kind of hung out over her wrist, and you could put your finger in here, in the space you could see through it because it was so much larger than her wrist. And, again, that's the kind of thing that you want to make sure before you buy, or Apple's pretty good about returning stuff. For those people, you probably living in California have Apple stores, all over the place. But one thing that Apple is very good about is that there's a 14-day no questions asked return policy. And so if you ever buy something and for whatever reason, such as it looks stupid on your wrist, you don't like it, you can send it back and full refund, no questions. So I do encourage people to take advantage of that if you need to. But yeah, so the Apple Watch Ultra, fit me, really didn't fit Tanya. And sort of good to know that as an option. And then the iPads and their keyboards were the big other thing.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, other than the laptops, of course, and the laptops are the laptops.
Yeah, so let's talk about the iPads first. Okay. Laptops, because this is frustrating. So, I have the iPad here, and I basically never use it. I use it to watch Netflix when I'm sick in bed. That's what it's good for. And the problem is, and maybe I'm unusual in this, but I have a Mac with more pixels than I can shake a stick at. I have an iPhone in my pocket at all times. We have 2 HomePods and the HomePod Mini, so there's sort of one of those always around. And we have an Apple TV, so with a large screen TV. So like the iPad just doesn't fit into any of that. Like it doesn't do anything that I need that one of my other devices doesn't do better. And that's just me. I'm sure other people have other standards. For instance, I actually really like reading books on the iPhone because the line length on the small iPhone screen is actually just about the best for human eyes. And there's a reason why newspapers have thin columns, because the human eye actually can only scan so far and maintain understanding. So the research actually really supports short line lengths. So in any event, so the question is, okay, there's these 5 iPads out, right? Actually 6 iPads, I guess, if you count the iPad Pro's 2 sizes. So you've got the 9th and 10th generation iPads. You've got the iPad Mini, the iPad Air, and then the 2 iPad Pros. I was intrigued by, the 9th generation one is like the same as my iPad Air or my iPad Pro 10.5 inch. I mean, it's that exact same feeling, like smooth back, the curved sides, all that kind of stuff. Even works with a smart keyboard. But the 10th generation iPads using the new style that Apple's been using for a couple of years now, which is more squared off. I call it the iPhone 5, iPhone 4, iPhone 5 design, because that's where we used to see it before Apple went curvy on the iPhones again. And the iPad Mini actually uses that same squared off design. The iPad Mini, I've always thought was kind of a weird, neither fish nor fowl size. But when I saw it in person, I've seen iPad Minis in the past, but like the current one, I was really taken with it. It's a cute little machine. I mean, like it's not something that really I need, but I was like, wow, that is a nice size, and it felt great in the hand. Like it was something that you could imagine sitting and holding for a long time when you were reading a book or watching a movie or something like that. So very struck by that. And then the 9th and 10th, good sizes. They felt fine. No real issues there. We'll get into the keyboards in a minute. iPad Air also basically same as the 10th generation. 11-inch iPad Pro, same as the 10th generation. They're all roughly the same size and weight. Then the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. I've never actually laid hands on one of those. Just never had an opportunity, and it was really big. I mean, those things are ungainly, and so I can see why people might use them with a Magic Keyboard as more of like a pseudo laptop, because they're just a lot to hold. That's one of those things where, if you got to angle it around, you actually got to use your wrist a bit. So that was a surprising thing as well. Just getting that feeling of, oh wow, this is too big, And again, I'm the size I am, and larger people probably would go, oh, I don't know. Shaquille O'Neal's like the 12.9. I can barely find it. So my hands are so large. But it was an unusual realization. Again, something that I had not previously anticipated.
So you were going to touch on the iPad keyboards?
Yeah. So here's the next thing. So if I'm going to use an iPad, I have to be able to type on it because that's what I do. I'm a writer. And so, I have an Apple Pencil, a first generation Apple Pencil here for my iPad, and I use it about 3 times a year. So I don't really like it every time I use it, all 3 times a year. But I just I don't draw stuff. I don't have any other. I hate handwriting. I've always hated handwriting. I typed my papers in high school on an Apple II clone because that way I would not have to handwrite them. So this is always a good thing. But the keyboards are they're weird. And this is coming from, the Smart Keyboard was kind of the first one that Apple did. And as I showed, it has this really nice kind of origami flippy thing where you can turn it into a keyboard, you can turn it back into a case really easily. And it doesn't add much weight, partly because it doesn't cover the back. So almost all of the other keyboards really have a different modality to them. So the Magic Keyboard, this is sort of the big one for the iPad Pros and the iPad Air. That you can fold the iPad into it and carry it around, but it's so thick and bulky at that point, you wouldn't leave your iPad in it and then take it to bed to watch Netflix or sit on the couch and read a book, because the keyboard's just too big and it doesn't really fold out of the way like this one does, so that you can have your iPad. It's also battery's dead, which is it's getting old. So you can use this so much more fluidly that it's always available. And so the Magic Keyboard to me really felt like something you would set on a desk, and you would pull your iPad off it and then go and use it like an iPad, and then you come back and put it in the keyboard and use it like a laptop. So that's certainly a way of working with them, but it's definitely not what I need. I have 2 27-inch monitors if I want to work at a desk. So that one again fell a little flat for me, and it's also not cheap. It's $300 or $350, which seems expensive to me. The Smart Keyboard Folio is a little bit the same situation. It only has a keyboard, no trackpad, and it kind of folds around the iPads. Kind of the same problem, it works fine. Don't get me wrong. The keys feel fine. None of that was an issue. It just I couldn't figure out would you always keep your iPad ensconced in this thing, or would you be taking it out because it makes your iPad twice as thick and significantly heavier. And the same thing really with the Magic Keyboard Folio, although there Apple did something even stranger in some ways, is they separated the keyboard and the back case. So you can actually take one off and the other off. And that's one where it might work out better to, be like, oh yeah, I'm going to leave the keyboard on my desk or whatever, and I'll leave the stand, which is kind of the kickstand on the back, and I'll use that, carry it around. But that only protects the back. And I don't know about you, but I don't need to protect the back so much as I want to protect the front. The front's where I'm worried about it. So again, just a slightly odd thing. And, it didn't grab me. It wasn't one of those situations where I thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. So again, none of these, I'm not saying they don't work well. I'm just saying that you had to think about it and how you would use it, because the way I use an iPad fairly flexibly, and just sort of mostly just the iPad itself, wasn't going to work well with these keyboards. They were going to be two separate things that you would bring together when you needed to type, rather than just flipping, boom, 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 and flipping it out. Oops, there we go. And being able to do this. So, that was weird. And you can still get the Smart Keyboard, but only for the 9th generation iPad. So that's the problem. Now, of course, you don't have to buy one from Apple either. There's Logitech Combo, which is probably what you're going to pull out right there.
Chuck, we're not here. Chuck, we're not
Oh,
hearing.
good.
you.
I'm not
It's not just
hearing
me.
anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. That was my fault. I had it on the call switch. No, this, Adam, I'm not sure if this was magic or which one they called this, but this is, the iPad is in here magnetically, so I can peel it right out if I want. Then this folds,
Yeah.
Like that. And I mean, does it add a little bulk? Yeah, a little bit. It adds a little weight. Yeah, it adds a little bit, but I don't find myself, if I want to take my iPad and watch it in bed, I won't intentionally peel the iPad out. It's not that much bulkier, that much weightier for me, but
For you, yeah.
your mileage may vary.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was, again, so it's an interesting question. Like, how much do first impressions matter? Right? Because I obviously, was in a store. I could touch these. I wasn't going to. We didn't have all day, So it was like you picked it up and you're like, oh wow, that's bulky. Like that was the impression. It wasn't, and I can remember some of these were good impressions too. Like when I glanced at the M1 iMac, I'm like, wow, that's great. And so with all of these things, I'm not saying they don't work or anything like that. I'm saying that you need to figure out whether or not it works the way you want it to work, because it didn't feel like it was going to for me. And that's, again, you can just imagine. And part of it is like, you do see, even on this call, we clearly got people who are radically different sizes. And some of that matters, if you were a very small person, and Tanya complains about this, so because she's 5'2" or 5'3", somewhere around there, she's like, a lot of these things are just too big for her. She was really fond of the 11-inch MacBook Air because that was the right size laptop for her, and she can do okay with the 13, but actually, I can segue. When we looked at the 14-inch and the 16-inch MacBook Pro, the 14 kind of seems like a good size again. It's a little bigger than the MacBook Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro, but not ridiculously so, and felt really nice in the hands and was nice and light and everything. The 16-inch, again, huge. I mean, talk about big. This thing was just crazy large. And it's to the point where like I couldn't quite imagine, particularly in an airplane, sitting it without my lap, because like there's not gonna be room. And then again, this is nothing new. We've had 17-inch MacBook Pros, right? But I've always been a 13-inch or smaller kind of guy, and this was just another example of, there's a reason why I think that. That for someone my size, that's really not the machine for me. And again, if you're like, I was talking to a friend of mine who has one, he's like, I don't ever use it on my lap. I use it on my coffee table, and I take it to work. So it's a portable for me. It's not a laptop exactly. So your mileage is gonna vary, but that's why I'm suggesting you should make sure you check these things in person first if you can, before assuming that it'll work, because bigger is better.
And you were back and forth on the kind of the key point: iPad, MacBook Mac laptop, desktop. It depends on what you're doing and what you want to do with your machine.
Yeah.
And that there are no right answers here, and yet everybody seems to continue to try to force everybody else into their vision of the world, which just drives me crazy.
How come you haven't switched to an iPad yet? The iPad is the next coming. I'm like, well, maybe it is for you.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, I've got iPads, and they're very useful to me, but I do different things than you do, or that some of the folks here do. And I carry the 16-inch Mac laptop because I like that no matter wherever I am, I have that super large screen, and the extra weight doesn't mean anything to me. So that's me. But I know a lot of people, just like you. Oh my God, this thing is it's a cafeteria tray. I don't want to carry this thing.
A lot of people don't spend as much time lifting weights as you do, Chuck. I mean,
well,
we know you're a major workout fiend.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to take my shirt off, but if you insist. Hey, we have some questions from the chat. Thanks for throwing those in, folks. And if you have questions or comments, throw them in. We'll try to get to it. Adam Evie asked, "What about the rumor that Apple's coming to Target stores?" I thought they were kind of already
Oh.
there.
Yeah, I haven't paid attention. We actually have a Target in Ithaca, so maybe I could go there and try stuff as opposed to
Yeah.
having to drive for an hour or two.
Oh, there you,
So yeah, I mean, for people like us, and for the purposes of like sort of why I was in the story, I'm like, the Apple people came up to try to help me, and I'm like, thank you, but no, I don't need any help. And I think that that's one of those situations where to just touch stuff, if Apple does end up working with Target, the way they have with Best Buy, and obviously there's Apple authorized resellers who are independent, those are just fine too. If you just need to like feel a product and see what your impressions of it are, then that's fine. I will say my experience. Keep in mind, I've been doing this for a long time. So I remember when CompUSA was the reseller, and Apple was going to have a store within a store, and all this kind of stuff. And historically, whenever you're buying an Apple product from someone other than Apple, or a true Apple authorized reseller, a company that specializes in that, the level of help that you get from the people who work in that store is often pretty minimal. They don't know stuff. They often don't really want to sell you Apple stuff because historically they haven't earned as much. The spiffs were smaller, the percentages they earned. So I don't know anything about the Target rumors, but in general, I think that it's better, the more places you can buy stuff. Again, for this very reason, that I would have liked to be able to go try this stuff in person more easily.
yeah, they've expanded, at least in the Best Buy here near me, they've expanded the Apple area. And on the busy days, they seem to have it staffed by someone that works for Apple. I'm sure they're an independent contractor, but someone that does seem to know more. And it always drives me crazy to go in and hear a Best Buy employee giving someone inaccurate information about either the Macs or the iPads or something. It's like, that's really not quite accurate. Let me show you how this really works.
Excuse me, sir, but I need to set you straight.
Yeah, well, I guess we all have that possessiveness about Apple, but it's just like, so if you guys are wrong about this, how much do you know about the refrigerator I'm coming in to buy? That's always the comparison I draw. So you really have to do your own research on it.
I mean, and there are fewer and fewer of them around, but I actually, if there is one near you folks, I strongly encourage you to support independent Apple resellers that but at this point, they've been in business for a long time. As I once noted, they're there to serve the adults. That not all the employees are 21, and people are not there trying to back. It's a little bit less true, obviously, last couple of years, but for a while, Apple stores were like the place to hang out and look cool, pick up people, that kind of stuff. So the Apple resellers are, they're usually a little bit less busy, they're less crazy, they're more willing to sit and talk to you and find out what your issues are and what you're trying to do and to solve your problem. And that's not to say that I haven't gotten good service at Apple stores, because I usually have. But there is a certain level of having this 22-year-old tell me about stuff. I'm like, yeah, nice. Go away. It's okay. I know. So
Adam goes in.
Yeah.
Adam goes in and says, "Don't you know who I am?"
No, I don't. That would just be obnoxious.
Yeah, I know. I know.
But yeah, it's like, I probably do know more about this than you do, and we don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
But
Let's see. So I hope I'm saying this right, Kenji. I hope I got that right. Why isn't the studio display 32 inches or even larger?
Well, they got to make if you're going to pay $6,000 for a Pro Display XDR, there's got to be some reason to do it. That's all I can assume. It's an unusual size even still. So when Apple came out with a 27-inch iMac, it was clearly the industry tried it. There were 8 or 10 independent 27-inch monitors that were all that 5K Retina display size. And one by one, they all disappeared. So there is only one left, as far as I know, the LG Ultrafine 5K. And what that says to me is that panel is unusual. And so, the actual base hardware behind the screen. And, Apple and LG use it and no one else. And so with the studio display, I'm guessing that Apple is just like, okay, this is the panel size we've got. It's going to be 27 inches. And, what they're doing with the Pro Display XDR, and I actually can't remember how big that is exactly. It may be 32. It's somewhere in that range. The Pro Display XDR, is, again, it's going to be an unusual panel because it's not the normal size. Pretty much what we've seen in the industry, and I do look at this periodically because of like, well, what am I going to replace my iMac with someday? 4K has become like the maximum you see. So 4K meaning roughly 4,000 pixels wide. And I do mean roughly because it's usually 3860. Not 4,000. So it's even lamer than 4K. Whereas the 5K display is more than 5,000 pixels wide. It's 5240 or something like that. So it's a situation where the industry really kind of commoditized those size panels and that resolution, and they decided that's good enough, and that's, in my mind, a little too bad. Just because, I don't know. Yeah, I looked at a 27-inch iMac for the last, 8 years, and it's great. And 4K displays that I've seen have been not as good. And certainly, Kenji notes that he has a 1080p device, and I've got the 27-inch Thunderbolt next to this, and it's it's more than 1080p, but it's really, really noticeably not as good as the Retina display. So I don't know. I think that what Apple has basically just settled is, and everything will be Retina, and that's good. But as soon as you want to move outside the Apple world, such as by buying another monitor, then you're in trouble because you're not going to find the same level of quality.
Adam, take another spin on that and see if you would agree with me. I sometimes think that one of the reasons we don't see certain products is that Apple either A, feels like they can't add any extra value being Apple, or B, they can't make any money at it. And that's my opinion for why they got out of the airport market, the airport base station market, and because they felt like they couldn't make any money at it given all the competition that was out there for better price. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think you're right. No, I think you're absolutely right. The airport was a good example because Apple got into that world because there wasn't the base stations that were available weren't very good, and they were hard to use, and so Apple came out with Airport Utility, and you configured it to be a nice app rather than these horrible web interfaces and things like that. But what we saw was that Apple couldn't keep up. The mesh networking kicked in. The other manufacturers could just move way faster, and I suspect some of that was the commodity hardware. That presumably Chinese companies said, here's the chips, and 17 manufacturers could slam those into a plastic case and have a base station that worked pretty well, and they could keep moving quickly on that. Whereas an Apple couldn't really add much value, once the web interfaces got good enough. So, so it made sense to get out of that market. I find the monitor market to be a little different. I mean, keep in mind, Apple dropped everything. They had nothing for a while. Then they come up with the Pro Display XDR, which I just looked, it is a 32-inch screen. And we're like, oh, great, Apple's gonna have a monitor. It's freaking $6,000. Like, you've got to be kidding. They came up with a monitor that they're calling cheap because they're comparing it against $15,000 reference monitors. I'm like, yeah, okay, but I get that there's a particular audience for that, but seriously, $6,000 for a screen? And and then when the Studio Display came out, at least $1,600, which is the amount of the base one, without the height adjustable stand. It's not ludicrous, right? You don't just laugh at it like you do the $6,000 for the Pro Display XDR. But you really have to kind of swallow hard particularly when you start comparing it to the price of the iMac. Obviously they dropped the 27-inch, but the 24-inch iMac starts at $1,300. So, and that's for a whole computer plus the screen. So, that's where it's a little tough, but I think Apple they could offer, they are offering more value in some ways. The Studio Display does have a really nice webcam. It actually has a processor. It has, I think, an A13 in there. So it's a good size and all those kinds of things that other companies aren't doing, but Apple isn't targeting it to the price point where people would just buy. If that monitor was $800 instead of $1,600, let me tell you, people would be just all over it, and a lot of people would have two. So as I said, it's just too much.
Kenji brings up the fact that this is a great time of year to buy an Apple product because you have the longer holiday return policy. So if you buy between November 4th
more than
and December,
14 days even.
Yeah, so that you have through January 8th to make up your mind. So great point. Thank you. But he also wants to know, Adam, what your impressions were of the AirTags.
I didn't, they probably had AirTags there. I didn't actually look at them there. We have an AirTag, and I like the AirTags. I think the AirTags are cute. I think they're useful. I'm not personally the target market for AirPods or AirTags. I don't lose them. I don't lose things. That's not the sort of person I am. And so I don't forget things. I don't leave things behind. And so that's not, I've never found a use for it. I brought my AirTag whenever we've traveled, but we also don't check luggage whenever we travel. So it's mostly caused, it's not so much the AirTag, actually, it's my MacBook actually is the one that tends to get me, is it will find it in some Find My network will find it in some location, and then we'll move somewhere, and it won't update the MacBook. And so I'll get an alert on my phone saying your MacBook Air has been left behind. And I'm like panicking. I'm like, no, it's still in my bag. I don't know what you're thinking. So all that said, I think the AirTags are brilliant little devices, particularly for people who check luggage. If I check luggage, I can guarantee there'd be an AirTag in every one of my suitcases. There are, I certainly know people who, well, my grandmother growing up, she lost her keys on an average about like 3 times a week. So, and her purse and everything else. She was just an absent-minded woman. And as a small child, we thought this was amusing. There was even one time, like, we were downtown, in Ithaca and shopping or something, and she lost her keys. So she's like, "Oh, you stay here. I'll walk home and get my other pair, a mile away." I'm like, "All right, no problem." So any event, so I could see there are definitely people who that's really good for. I did look, when we were at the Apple store, all little leather cases and attachments and hooks and things that Apple sells, and they looked like they were nice. That again, if you were, the one problem with the AirTag, mine's downstairs, so I can't sort of hold it up on show you while I'm talking about it. The one problem is that these little slippery discs, which is great, but they're fine for dropping in something. But then a lot of times you want to attach them to something, and for that you really do need a fob. My suspicion is that Apples are really expensive, and if you go on Amazon, you can probably find a vast number of much cheaper tags for the or cases for the AirTag. Now, the one that I have been one thing I have been thinking about with an AirTag, blank on the name of it, Gravity maybe. There's a company that makes this wonderful case that. It can attach via very, very strong adhesive, and then it's a waterproof case for the AirTag. And the idea is that you can use it to attach the AirTag to a bicycle, like under the seat maybe, or to if you have an equipment case, where you want to make sure that the AirTag doesn't ever get dropped, fall out of the equipment case. And so having these really permanent waterproof holders for the AirTag struck me as a really nice idea. And I was like, I don't think I would ever lose my bicycle, but it's conceivable that it would be stolen, and that would be something that I would potentially want an AirTag telling me where it was. So I have been thinking about that as a possible useful thing. Anyway, and if you know anybody who, again, has an expensive bicycle, like kid at a college, if they have a nice bike, yeah, I would put one of these things on it so fast, because bikes at college tend to walk. They would ride, but they need a person to do that. They walk on their own. Uh-oh, you're muted again.
I got to keep pull off the switch. Yeah, this is a little neoprene case that cost. I think I got 4 of these for like $8.
Right.
Yeah. And so my AirTag does not need rich Corinthian leather. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. It's just this is good enough. It gives a little protection, but more importantly, it gives you the fob part that you can hook onto something. Because I keep one in my backpack, I keep one in all my luggage. There's one on my keys. There's one hidden in my car, so that if the car ever gets stolen, I can find it. So they're absolutely useful. And I know there's been a lot of questions about people tracking and all that, and that can be a whole nother discussion too. But these do everything that they're advertised to do and more. So if you have the need, go for it.
Yeah.
Let's see
So Kenji noted in the chat that if you have it on a bike and someone takes the bike, then the AirTag would make a sound or get a notification, and that's true potentially, but not for a while. That it's not an instantaneous thing, and we actually, there was a big discussion about this in Tidbit's talk. Peter Lewis, actually, who writes, he's the author of Keyboard Maestro. He was looking to getting one of these for his son. He was initially concerned that the bike would, the bike would start, if it was just left on campus for more than 8 hours, it would start playing a sound because no one's moved me. But basically, it doesn't do that unless it moves and then sits. So it is tricky, but for the most part, the AirTags are really not designed to protect against theft. They're really designed to be something where it's just, oh gosh, I left my bag in the library, or I left my bag somewhere. Where did I leave my bag? Or even I left something in a taxi. So it's much more aimed at that. If you're going to use it for kind of theft prevention, you're really going to want to hide it as well as possible. And it won't. There's no question that if someone has an iPhone, it will alert them eventually. Alert the thief eventually. But like people I know, a lot of people put them in their car, and you can hide an AirTag in a car pretty well, such that someone's not going to be able to find it quickly. And presumably, you'll know that your car has been stolen soon enough. So it shouldn't be a big surprise there.
Yeah. Kenji says, I've read it's easy to pop the AirTag open and remove the speaker to silence it. I haven't tried that. I don't know how easy it is, and I see your point, but at the same time, then you are taking away at least one use case where you can call, if you lose your keys in your house, you can tell the AirTag to play a little tone.
Yeah. And
it's not terribly loud, but it's enough that if you're quiet, you can usually find your keys.
Well, and I think with the AirTag, at Apple, they're priced well. They can get 4 for $100, so $25 a piece. And I think Apple really sees them as being dedicated. Like, oh, this one is going to live here, and this one is going to live there, and really, you're never going to change that up. And I'm a little weird in that regard because oh, I'll take this one on, take it on a trip because I'm going on a trip now, and it'll sit on the counter for a while because I'm not doing anything, and I'll, every now and then I'll want to test something, so I'll pop it in the car and that kind of thing. So they don't really expect that. They really expect it'll be one and done for each AirTag.
Folks, any questions that we can answer? I can always keep Adam going for a long time because I've always got things that I want to wind him up on. But if there's anything you want to hear, please.
We are not talking about Twitter this time, Chuck.
No, I was not going to bring up Twitter. I was going to bring up something equally as fun.
Oh, no.
Well, So just today, we saw Google get fined $400 million for privacy violations. And it seems like there's been so much talk about, Apple and what they're tracking, what they're not tracking, how much information they're collecting on you, what they're doing with it. I think it's easy to dismiss and say, well, Apple, I mean, they have to take some of your information in order to service you and service their products. But do you think there's any danger that we're seeing a shift in Apple away from the privacy, or are these things just clickbait?
So, there is something that's going on with, if you can tell your iPhone, like, do not track me in any way, shape, or form. And someone actually did some network scanning, network sniffing after turning that on, and discovered that a bunch of these things still actually, a bunch of Apple apps still talk to Apple, and still are relaying information to Apple. And Apple's definition of tracking is sharing the information to another party. So apps are actually allowed to track you. They're allowed to ask you for permission to know things about you, and that's fine. What they're not allowed to do is then to share that information with other third parties. And that was the big thing that with app tracking transparency that hurt Facebook so badly, because Facebook wanted to take all that information that they collected and then share it to all the advertisers, in essence, or use other people to collect it and then bring it into the Facebook world. So I do think that Apple's being a little disingenuous if it's collecting data, even if it's not sharing it or using it for advertising purposes. And I'm guessing that fairly soon we'll see someone at Apple will have to say something, because this is, this commentary is gathering momentum. And then simultaneously, I don't think that Apple, for the most part, cares. Like, Apple's business has not really been based on knowing things about its users. Apple's business is based on selling things to its users. So it doesn't really care much about you as long as you keep buying. However, and this is the big however, Apple has started to get into advertising in a bigger way. And I am wildly unenthused about that. For one, I'm just tired. I'm tired of everything being transactional. And, I went into the App Store app for the first time after upgrading to iOS 16, or maybe it was something else that triggered it. And Apple's like, can we send you notifications about new apps? I'm like, no, get the hell out. I do not need to get notifications about new apps or anything like that. I don't. I use my iPhone for the things I want to use it for. I don't need to be told about more stuff that you could want me to do and presumably sell me. And so I believe that less of the world should be transactional. It should not, the world does not have to involve money at all points in the time, all times of places. And advertising creates a transactional world. We actually don't want billboards everywhere. And that's what this is billboards everywhere. It's bad enough that we got enough billboards, out in the world that we have. But what if you had a billboard every, 50 feet? You get one past one build, there's a next one. And that would be problematic. And I think people would rebel in the real world. And that's kind of what's happening in the online world, and particularly, and as we've in the past, Apple has been good about not doing that, and I fear that's changing. And so we will see how that happens, how that works out.
Okay. Going back to
Yeah.
Going back to the iMac, David asks, is it technically and financially conceivable for some third party to create an interface for using the existing iMac 5K displays with new MacBook Air or iPad Pros? It really bugs me when my current iMac is deprecated by Apple as unsupported. I'll be stuck with a wonderful 5K display without a computer to drive it.
Yep. Yeah. Now, I've looked at this. I mean, there's a reason why I have 3 of them in my office. I have looked at this. There is a Luna display is a product you can buy, and I have tested it. And let's see, I can put the link in the chat. It lets you run an iMac as a screen, and so you can do exactly what you want. However, it is not really as it's not as ideal as you might like. So you can read the article, but basically the performance is not great. It's good, but you come to assume things are just going to be smooth, and this is just not quite smooth. The text gets fuzzy when you move a window, that kind of thing. It takes up a couple of Thunderbolt ports, so you may not want to use up the Thunderbolt ports. And if you start playing video, it gets kind of fuzzy and jerky. Video is really the hardest thing. And there were a couple of funny, weird ones. Apple Watch unlocking didn't work. So it has something to do with security and some aspect of it, because you're somehow controlling another Mac. But I really like being able to walk up to my Mac and have my watch unlock it. So that was something I was surprised that didn't work. And then whenever I restarted, I kind of had to move stuff around, and so that was a little bit fussy. There's utilities that would solve that. So what it kind of comes down to is it depends how badly you want it. That if you want it badly, you can in fact use Lunar Display to drive another Mac. Now, one thing that I have not tried in everyday practice is universal control. So this is something that universal control, you can actually just have your keyboard or your mouse pop over to another machine sitting next to your first one, and the keyboard suddenly starts working on that one too. So you can actually use two Macs side by side. And so that would get you around all the performance problems. The question is would it be sort of too awkward to be bouncing back and forth between the two machines and sharing information between them? So, like how would you set it up such that you could double click a file and then it would you'd be able to edit it on the machine you expect to edit on. And I don't quite know the answer to that, but I would actually, if you're interested in that, I would encourage you to try playing with universal control some more.
Oh boy, this is one that Adam and I strongly disagree on. Kenji wants to know, what do you like for keyboards? Adam likes the machine gun, is what he likes.
Yeah, so I don't know if I can quite get it up here. Nope, not all the way. So this is a DOS keyboard. It's a big clicky keyboard, and it's yeah, that's I like big clicky keyboards. Interestingly, I mean, actually, what fell here is something even weirder. This is a Contour Designs roller mouse, and the way you use it is you slide this bar back and forth. My cursor is flipping back and forth as I do this, and it rolls up and down. So you get 360 degrees of motion, and then your buttons are right here. So what it does is it puts your thumbs when you're typing right in front of your pointing device, which I adore. Really, really like that. But so keyboards, yeah, I'm a big clicky keyboard kind of person, and that said, I actually really like the keyboard on my MacBook Air. Once Apple got past the horrible butterfly keyboards, could not believe they kept doubling down on those. Like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. We're up to the 4th generation now. We've only had 3 recalls. And once they got past that, we're back to the laptop keyboards that I really like. And so those are good. I have a little trouble with the kind of the normal desktop keyboards, the Magic keyboards, not because there's anything really wrong with them, but because they don't work on my roller mouse. And so I'm back to a trackpad, which I don't like trackpads off to the side. I like things in front. And that's why I actually really prefer the MacBook layout, where the trackpad's in front of the keyboard. I remain befuddled that almost no one has really provided a keyboard trackpad, either tray or combo, that puts it in that orientation for a lap, for a computer. I mean, there's a few out there. I keep finding every now and then I go look, and like there's a few cheap Chinese ones, but I haven't found anyone do a really good job of it yet. So, but you like the Apple, the standard Apple keyboards, right? Don't you, Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a keyboard snob. I just sort of I do struggle with the touch keyboards, the virtual keyboards on the iPads. But other than that, I just will type on whatever. And I can't say that I was joking, of course, earlier. I don't hate the Quickie keyboards. I just don't find them like necessary.
Yeah.
So whatever keyboard, and even, and this is sacrilege, I realized to a lot of people, even the scissor keyboards, when they weren't having problems, they were fine.
Well, yeah, when they weren't having problems.
Well, I mean,
never
as far
liked them either.
I mean, as far as feel goes, yeah. But
I never liked the feel either. So, Tanya has a 2016 MacBook Pro, which was her previous laptop before the M2 MacBook Air, and now I always hated its keyboard too. And and then the keyboard broke out of warranty. So, it's a classic thing. So it was frustrating because I thought that I really felt that Apple had they had designed the keyboard to be thin, with really not thinking about what you do with a keyboard. And it was funny because like this you want to talk about thin. I mean, this little bug here, it's really small and thin, and this was a good feel. I mean, the smart keyboards were good feels. And I've heard actually similar things about the other ones. I couldn't really test them for long enough to know, but the iPad keyboards have been remarkably good. And there was just that one butterfly keyboard, man, never cottoned onto it.
Yeah. Let's see. Jennifer asked, where do you find a reputable Apple reseller?
I wonder if there's a page, Apple reseller.
I mean, aren't there still authorized Apple resellers?
Yeah, there are. If you go to locate.apple.com, and you can type in a zip code, and then it will, in theory, tell you. Come on, tell me. Okay, maybe not. Well, in any event, try locate.apple.com. And that's designed to help you find Apple stores as well. So you'll probably get other stuff in that listing too if it works for you. I don't know why it's not working for me at the moment, but that's that's in theory where you would locate all these people. And there's a variety of different Apple resellers, sort of different levels of them. I know a bunch of these people. There's a group called ASMC, that's his Apple Specialist Marketing Corporation or something. It's their kind of industry group. And they're all great people. I've been to their conferences a couple of times, and they try really hard, but I have to say Apple treats them really badly. So these people are, I mean, it's their business, but it's a labor of love for them because Apple has never liked the idea of anyone but Apple selling products, really. I mean, they come and go, the relationships with the Best Buys and the Targets and whatnot, but Apple doesn't want to share the margins. That's what it comes down to.
Jennifer, for what it's worth, I typed my zip code in, and I got several Best Buy stores, believe it or not, a Guitar Center and an Apple store. So I guess those are all. So you'll probably end up with some of those in your results as well.
And I was just going to check. I'm doing a real quick search on Buffalo, New York, because I happen to know there's a reseller there. Let's see if that shows up. They really should. There's also the one I gave is for sales, but they'll also have Apple. If you go up one level, they'll have Apple authorized service providers. And so those are the people who can repair things.
Yeah, and it's worth noting on that page that it does ask you not only to enter your zip code, but also the product you're looking for. So
that was my problem. I didn't enter product. Yeah. Okay, that was my problem. I didn't enter product. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. Look at that, Guitar Center, Best Buy. Yeah, but here's Mac Solutions Plus, which is the reseller I happen to know about in near Buffalo. And so, you will find them. You might have to click through and get through a lot of the Best Buys and Guitar Centers from the looks of it. I didn't know Guitar Center did this, but any event, so there should be good ones. And I really do recommend the independent resellers. They're, as I said, they're great folks. They've been doing it a long time, and they're more likely to be sort of a higher level of service.
Yeah. I'm going to give Kenji the last question. He just points out, isn't the new open-ended Apple Care Plus coverage great, since we can keep paying to never end up with out of coverage situations like that MacBook Pro keyboard?
Yeah, that's that is something that Apple really, I thought they did a nice job on. It's one of those situations where, it's insurance, right? Apple Care Plus is insurance, and so I'm sure that Apple has figured out they're making money on it. There's no questions about that, but it's so nice if you do have a laptop that, you want to keep going for a long time, that you can just keep paying, paying a little bit every month or year and increase the length of the Apple Care. I'm a big fan of Apple Care for basically anything portable. It's just too easy to drop something. I never get it for desktops, and I always get it for, laptops and iPhones and iPads. And I think that's, it's just, had enough experiences over the years that seems to work out. One thing I do want to note, because I think maybe we've all been around long enough that we may not have kind of updated our thinking to the new world order, but a lot of people thought that you had to have Apple Care to call Apple for support. And that is not true anymore. Anyone can call Apple for support at any time, doesn't matter. And they don't check if you have Apple Care or anything like that. So if you have been, struggling with some kind of problem and worried, sort of wish you could call Apple, but think you're out of your warranty or whatever, don't worry about it. Just call them. They'll help you. It's always worth a try. Yeah.
Adam, I know you have another appointment to run to, so I think we're going to wrap this up. But I definitely want to thank DVMUG for having us. This was just a whole lot of fun, and it's always great to get together with user groups.
You guys want to whenever you want. We actually, Chuck, you should put us. We got your weekly, list of what the clubs are doing. You can pencil us in for Tuesday at 3:00. We've been doing it for 2.5 years. We haven't missed a week.
Oh, every week! Wow.
Yeah, we do this meeting every week at the same time. We run MacMost videos. We have Q&A. We stop the recording. Right. We do, social hour, but it's real steady.
You stop the recording and then you get into the good stuff.
Yeah.
You
order the
we
pizza
actually
and
we got more people to the Zoom meeting than we ever got. That we still have our office and we pay the rent, but we don't have meetings there.
Yeah.
So we actually recovered 10% of our expired members who had moved away. And I emailed them, say, hey, you can come to these meetings. You don't have to drive. You don't come from New York or Florida or Texas or whatever.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I'm the president of the local runners club, and our board meetings were always in person. For forever, and like everything else, we went to Zoom.
Not anymore.
And every summer people go, oh, let's have the next board meeting in person, and we do. It's a great time. And then the next one, they're like, let's go back to Zoom. I don't want to drive. It's too hard. I'm traveling, whatever it is. And so, Zoom just works really well for this kind of stuff. And so, I have to say the one of the silver linings of the pandemic is it's going to cut down on a lot of real unnecessary driving for this kind of stuff, and get groups being bigger because it's easier, The Runners Club is getting the same thing. We have people who are coming to our board meetings who would never drive to Ithaca because they actually don't live in Ithaca. They live, the next city over or something. So it's been great.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys very much. Anytime you want to do a meeting, we're available. If you want to do
thank you so much.
Group thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Adam, thank you. Always fun.
Thank you all. It's been great.
Nice. So Adam, before you go, what was the brand of that roller mouse that you like?
Contour Designs. Let's see if I can give you a URL.
Oh, got it.
Okay, yeah.
Wasn't that the roller mouse on a Mac clone laptop some years ago?
Many years ago. I even forget which one it was. It was the Outbound or the Colby or one of those. But yeah, it had a roller. Yeah. And I like it a lot because it puts it, like I sit there, with my hand right in front of the, keyboard, just pull it back a few inches, and then I've got all the control I need. It doesn't give you as much control as a mouse, but it would only be a problem if you were doing a lot of very fine graphics work. I mean, I probably wouldn't play a game, like a video game, with it either. But for all normal usage, I mean, I've been using this for decades now. And put it this way, the specific one I have, I can't show you, but it actually hangs off the edge of my desk by about 3 inches, and it works perfectly to do that. And that's just the perfect size for mine. And so I actually, I was going to go buy another one, and I realized that it wasn't going to hang properly. And so I contacted the company, and like, well, we have one more in a back room. Would you like that one? I'm like, yes, send it to me. Hopefully that one will hold me for another 10 years before I have to do something different. So they do wear out after a decade or so, but yeah, I've had pretty good luck. All right, everybody, thank you so much for having me. I do need to run, but
Thank you.
Enjoy, and we'll see you again sometime.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yes, thank you. And listen, if you haven't had enough, starting at about 7:45 my time, so you can do the conversion for yours. I do my live show on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. So if you're up for it, I'm going to go get some dinner, and then that's next up. So and you never know what that panel is going to come up with. They're a lot crazier than Adam. So thanks so much for having us, guys.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
So I guess we'll keep the recording going for a bit. If you have any other stuff to talk about before we go to social hour, or.
But caramba, is that contour mouse thing expensive? $350.
Wow.
There was a
Yeah,
clone maker
I'll probably
many,
be sticking
many years
with this.
ago when Apple had clones that had a laptop that featured that particular style, a little rolling rod with the thing that moved back and forth on it like his. And I think it was called the Outbound Kangaroo or something like that. And it was out of Utah. And like I say, when Apple still authorized clones to be made. And I think that Contour must have purchased the patent for that. But $350 is a bit rich.
Kenji, what do you have? What did you just show?
I have a Logitech M570, I think it's called. It's a thumb wheel mouse, so it's like that. It sits on the desk and you move the ball with your thumb, and then you have the buttons. And I really like this thing. Microsoft used to make one very similar, which they discontinued, but this one is much better. And this one's actually discontinued, but you can still get them. It's like $50 or something. It's really good. This one you need to use the Logitech dongle. It's not USB. I mean, it's not Bluetooth. They have a newer model that uses that little dongle. I forget what they call it. Logitech calls it the unifying receiver. So you plug it into a USB port and it communicates with this thing wirelessly, but not by Bluetooth. The newer model has that, but you can also use it as Bluetooth. But I love this thing. They also make another model of this where it's kind of turned up on ends, so the ball. When you use it in this position, or I guess this position instead of this position. It's supposed to be easier on the wrist for some people. But I love this thing. It's great. I'm left-handed, but this thing is right-handed only, and I love it so much that I've just learned to be a right-handed mouser. What do you got there, Ken?
I've got an Anchor ergonomic mouse, the old version, which is small enough for my hands. The new version is a little bit big, and I know it makes a big difference on my wrist. It's much more comfortable and less wrist pain.
What is it?
I have one of those. That's a great mouse.
This is the
Can
old
you- Can you hold
Microsoft-
it up, Ken, so we can see him? Can you hold it up, Ken, so we can see it?
What did you say it was, Ken? I did, you said it.
Anchor.
Anchor, and it's just an
Yeah,
anchor.
there's
rolling?
several ergonomic mouses where it's actually put your hand at a 45-degree angle rather than horizontal. As I say, the new ones are bigger. They're a little big for my hand. So I bought one, but I had to send it back, and I managed to find one more of this one. So I have a backup when and if, well, when this goes.
Hmm.
But I've got. This looks familiar.
Oh, yeah.
What's
This is
your
the old Microsoft
Yeah.
mouse.
It's a great
Five
mouse.
buttons and one roller.
Yeah,
And they came in two versions, wired and wireless.
yeah, I've got a wireless one too. It's black rather than gray.
Yeah, the wireless doesn't work anymore, I don't think, because of the operating system and the driver for it.
Oh, the interesting thing about the Anchor mouse is that the receivers are device specific. So
Really?
you can't use the same receiver on two different mice.
Really?
So that
I've
was,
got a lot of Anchor stuff, good quality and very, very good service.
Yeah, Anchor's a good company.
Yeah.
You've told us that before, Rick. You recommended him. I bought some stuff on your recommendation from Anchor.
Yeah.
now everybody's doing show and tell of their mice.
You recognize this mouse?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been using this style of mouse forever, one button mouse.
You need
I can't-
next-
I use-
I've got one in the collection, John.
I use so many different computers. I can't get used to other stuff. I just rely on a one button. It's like, and I'm trained to use the control key. I don't even want a second button.
I think I have one. I think I have one of those left if you want it.
Oh, we can use them at the office. They wear out. Sometimes they fray. The wire frays at the base of the mouse, and we have some at the office. We're kind of starting to get scarce. The keyboards are starting to get, old keyboards we had are starting to get scarce too.
I'll take a look and see if I have one. I have a bucket full of mice.
So I think,
was-
John, you're a clutterer, and the whole reason for DVMUG is to have a place where you can keep your clutter.
You won't believe how much stuff I've been getting rid of. I took 7 laptops to the e-waste Ann took the other day, and 7 separate batteries to the hazardous waste. Yeah. The keyboards, when people donate a iMac, I always recommend you keep the wired keyboard because you're going to need it someday.
Yep.
Your mouse is,
Absolutely.
your keyboard battery is going to go dead. You won't be able to type your log into your computer. And it's like, just keep that thing.
I keep a wired keyboard. That I use
Wired
for
keyboard and
working
mouse.
on
Hold on.
Macs.
You get rid of your iMac, your old computer, keep that sucker.
Oh, I got one.
And the wired mouse.
Yep.
I got 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah.
4.
And it doesn't matter what kind of mouse, any USB mouse will do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always
can
good
use-
advice, good practice. Before the meeting started, we were talking about Mac Break Weekly that was on today. And one of the things that they announced was that the new satellite emergency SOS was initiated today by Apple. And it was interesting because most of the time you're not going to be able to get satellite connection inside of a building. But I tried it on my phone and walked over to a window and bingo, it acquired a satellite. If you want to test it out yourself, you can go to settings and then go to general and then go to emergency. I think it's emergency SOS, and then scroll all the way down to the bottom and it'll say satellite demo, I think. Try demo. And it's amazing. It really works. Now that's on the iPhone 14 any model.
So are you sure that it's actually acquiring a satellite and not just doing
Yeah.
pretending
Because
it is?
kept telling me turn left, because you pick up the phone and you hold it horizontally and you have to turn it. It's got like a little compass on there and it'll show a satellite over to the left and you have to turn the phone to point it at it.
That's a good thing if you have a new phone to practice to, you see how it works,
Right.
because you don't want to have to learn how to do it when there's an emergency. You want to already know how to do it.
Yeah.
On
Can
the
you
tidbits site right now, there's an article that says Apple says more about emergency SOS via satellite technology.
I'll put that link on the MailChimp Sunday. I saw that.
What
I
is
didn't
the
put it in
tidbit
yet.
site? You mean you go to tidbits.com?
Yeah, tidbits.com.
Okay.
You can subscribe to it and they'll send you a weekly email, I think. I use a lot of his articles when there's a new operating system or new hardware.
Yeah.
He's not the first to get out the news about it. Like everybody wants to be in a rush to get there first and they'll post all day long. Usually later in the day, he has a more thoughtful, like he said, he has an opinion about it. And so he writes something that's more, interesting. And I usually use those in the MailChimp.
John, can you guys repeat the how to get to that emergency satellite thing?
Go to settings,
Settings.
right? Then scroll down to emergency SOS.
Okay, emergency SOS.
Select that, and then
Okay.
scroll all the way down to the bottom and it says try demo.
Mine doesn't say that.
What phone do you have?
13.
No, it's only
gotta have
the
a 14.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Thank you. I thought I was doing something wrong.
Nope.
Supposedly, they were checking today on MacBreak that you can do that with Find My if you don't have a cell signal. They didn't explain how to do it, but you can send a Find My to the satellite, a one-time thing where you manually send it so people will know where you are, your friends and family. So it doesn't track you. You actually post, I'm here now. And then they know where you last posted. And it's, it takes a while. It's not instantaneous and stuff, but they didn't explain where you do that from or how you do that.
I'll be right back.
So there may be more, there may probably be some more news about that coming out if they just activate it today.
Because every year you hear about people who go skiing and take the wrong road and get stuck.
Oh, up in the mountains where I track where my brother used to live, it's like, okay, somebody said, hey, a Walmart semi truck just turned up the road and that road's closed. It's telling them to take this shortcut over the pass. Well, they close that pass in the winter. Once they close it, it's closed till the spring. And there's nothing up there. You get a semi up there, how are you going to turn that sucker around? It's a 2-lane road.
Yeah, they do it in their cars. You read about it every year that somebody goes to look for help and somebody else is sitting in their car. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
No food, no water.
Yeah, around here, they'll tell you when roads are closed and tell you an alternate route, but I don't know if they know that the roads are closed when they close them in the Sierras. They close lots of roads in the winter that that's it. They close them, they don't plow them. Be interesting. I should go look and see on Google Maps and Apple Maps and see if I know where that road is. That's a shortcut I used to take for years. It's a really nice road, but it ain't open in the winter.
So I like how Rick has hired a camera person, a camera operator to follow him around his great room when he moves around.
No, it's just the iPad does that automatically.
Oh, come on, you can tell us.
No,
You don't want us to know that you've got a whole camera, you've got a whole production staff there.
yeah. Yeah.
So while everybody's still here before you all bail out, remember next week, our Zoom meeting will start at the regular time at 3 o'clock, and we will have Mike Matthews returning for a
Oh,
class with iPad OS 16
oh,
from 3 to
Oh.
5. So that will be next week, and then he will be doing a Ventura class in December. I believe it is December 13th.
13th.
Yeah.
So on that day, everybody should think about me and send me good wishes because they will be chopping my knee out that day. So
You're gonna have the other one replaced? You're having the other one replaced?
yes.
Wow. You're brave. I did one and said, forget it.
Me
Well,
too.
My
My
husband has had both of them done and he's done great.
My doctor, I went to the doctor and he had one and he said, I was gonna have the other one. I changed my mind.
Well,
You get by with one leg, huh?
You just limp. I just limp.
That
well,
can throw your back out.
well, I'd like to be able to walk, and right now the other knee is bothering me. I mean, both knees were about the same.
Yeah.
So just having one done, there won't be a lot of benefit. And lately, my other knee has been hurting a lot. So the one that's been replaced is definitely causing me less problems than the one's yet to go. So I'm
I
looking forward to
understand.
getting them both done.
I had what you'd call a failed knee replacement. I developed scar tissue and I could hardly walk and it took forever. So naturally I'm put off by that.
When maybe could you stick around maybe at the end of the meeting to tell me more about that?
Well, I doubt if you had the first one and you didn't have that, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you're cool.
Yeah.
Well,
But I'm
I
with you,
mean-
Alice.
I mean,
I'm not gonna do the second.
it doesn't move smoothly. Like if, for instance, I'm sitting here, I go to like try to lift my foot up in front of me. I can feel all this clanking in the knee and that's uncomfortable. But
Does it
when
click? Does it
yeah,
click?
it's like the patella is banging around.
Mine
Should
too.
we done with the technical questions? Should we stop the recording, or anybody else got something on the record?
I've got one thing. It's not a question. I see Lee's waving his hand too. But I found this great tip today, which I put on the BBS. Did people notice it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll put that in the MailChimp Sunday, and I'll put it in the list for when Peter starts up in 2 weeks
Okay.
for his list. I already got it in there. It's a great little tip. It's only a minute. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it either. It's wonderful.
I
He
mean,
also said this is a follow-up to last week's 1 minute quick tip, and I couldn't find last week's. It's part of 9 to 5 Mac. I couldn't find his other previous week's thing.
Yeah, I subscribe to 9 to 5 and I don't get daily tips.
You never seen daily tips before?
No.
I haven't either. I read 9 to 5 Mac every day. That's where I get some news. I never seen him before.
Me too.
I found that because I was Googling remember how you used to be able to, on your Mac, you could rearrange the apps on your iPhone
Yeah.
from your Mac. They got rid of that. And I have all these, these screens of apps because it's such a big pain to try to move them from screen to screen and put them in folders. So this tip makes that so much easier to
You bet.
to move them from screen to screen.
Their answer to that is go to the last page and they organize them for you.
Yeah.
You can get rid of all the other ones. In fact, I don't find it irritating. When you download a new app from the App Store, it does not go on one of those screens. It goes into the end page. And if you want it to move to one of the other pages, you have to go in there and say, move it to one of my home page. It's like, okay.
I
Any more
kept running a
questions? We can
modified
go.
version of iTunes so I could keep adjusting my apps.
Yeah. Lee had a
on
question.
Mac.
Yes, Lee had a question.
Yes, Lee.
Yes, I'm having trouble getting Bluetooth to connect from my iPhone to my iMacs. and I was wondering if anyone else is having that trouble.
What would you do if you connected it via Bluetooth?
I would do a copy and paste of my clipboard.
Oh. You do that
You
over
shouldn't have to
Bluetooth
do
and
that.
not over, didn't that work over Wi-Fi?
Yeah, it should.
No, you need to be connected to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi
Yeah, there you
for
go.
things like continuity camera and for, what do they call it, universal copy and paste, or,
Yeah, whatever the name is.
yeah,
Okay.
universal clipboard, I think it's called.
I think Bill Goldsmith had a question.
Goldberg.
too. Goldberg, sorry.
Yep. iOS 16 is now showing as, the update, and I'm at iOS 15.7.1, but the notices, it looks like they're not going to say anything else for doing an update to iOS 15 now.
Well, they gave you the choice. If your
Yeah,
device
I
can go to
was-
16, I did the first thing it says do 15.7.1. You can do that if you don't want to go to 16. If you don't pay attention, you won't see that they're actually at 16 below that.
Well,
You can just
now
go
it's-
straight to 16. You don't have to go to the other one,
right
incremental
now.
one
Now
first.
it's just showing me iOS 16, and I've hesitated going with the update because I have a second generation an SE 2020.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I did. It is fine.
Yeah, I upgraded one of those the other day. It's fine.
Okay. My only other problem is my screen is cracking.
Yeah.
Oh, good opportunity for a new phone.
Can't afford it.
Well,
Screen
you could
replace-
go to, now I know you said you were moving. I don't know if you're still in Contra Costa or not.
I am.
There's a place in Concord at the corner of Mount Diablo and Pacheco called Fix That Mac. And they're very good. I sent somebody over there the other day for a battery. They did it while she waited. And they can take care of all that stuff for you. They're quite
Yeah,
good.
but I have
They look-
Apple Care. I have Apple Care Plus on this right now. I
Oh,
don't want to mess it up.
yeah, sure.
But
Oh, so get
I
it
don't
replaced under
know.
Apple Care Plus then.
I don't
Yeah.
know if they'll cover the cracked screen.
They will.
Yeah, they will.
But you have
Okay.
to,
Rick, what's the name of-
don't you have to pay something?
I think it's like $29 or something. For
Yeah.
them.
Oh, that I'll do.
Yeah,
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Rick, that place
definitely.
you said is Fix My Mac?
Fix That Mac.
Oh, Fix That Mac. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they're
Okay, good
pretty
advice.
They look like they escaped from a teenage garage band. But they're pretty good.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll try the Apple Store first.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, or you
Yeah.
don't even have to do the store. If you've got a backup phone, you can call the Apple
I
number,
don't.
send you a box.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
But you don't necessarily have to go to an Apple store to do it. There are certain authorized repair places
Yeah,
that can do it too. And during the pandemic, when all the Apple stores were closed, they sent me to I forget what the name of the place was, but they have a lot of stores, and they did a good job, and they basically did it while I waited.
what does anyone know here about a place in Walnut Creek called it something like Kangaroo Mobile?
Yeah, Kangaroo Mobile, that's the place.
Okay.
That's the one, that's the Apple authorized repair.
There's
Yes.
there's another place in Concord that's pretty good. Mac Volt.
Okay.
But I think you have to start the repair process by going online or calling Apple Care.
You can do it at Best Buy also.
There.
You can book through the Apple site. You can go
Okay,
to
I'll
the
try
Apple
that.
site and book a Best Buy.
Rick, what was the name of the other place in Concord?
Mac Volks, like in Volkswagen.
Oh, okay.
They're not cheap,
Well, what is?
but
Nothing's
Fix
good for.
That Mac, I think their prices are more reasonable.
Okay.
Janet has her hand up. Jan?
Oh, thank you. I haven't upgraded to Ventura yet. Is it okay if I upgrade the phone to 16, or is there any
Yeah, you can
difficulty
do
with
that. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I wanted to ask Ken though, what's the last version of iTunes that works to rearrange apps?
12.6.7.
What's
Not
that?
something,
12.6.7.
yeah, but it only works
You
on.
have to go through some modifications on it. I'll see if I have one, and if so, I'll send it to you. I
Okay,
have a
great.
Modified version,
Yeah, I
So-
missed that.
but it's not going to run on any of the later operating systems.
Right,
Right.
right. But we could do it probably on like an El Cap machine.
Yeah, you probably could. I'll see if I have one. If not, if I don't have a modified one, I may have the instructions on it.
Okay, cool.
For what? For what is that for?
To run-
iTunes.
use iTunes to do your app arrangement.
Oh. But you ought to try this tip first, because it makes rearranging your apps really very
Yeah.
slick.
So I got a warning for you if you're about Ventura. I had somebody call me from Rossmore. He said, I mucked up my machine. And he told me what he had. And I said, I already know what's wrong. You need an SSD. It's so slow. Turns out he has one of these 21-inch MyMacs with the 5,400 RPM laptop drive in it. And it had been getting slower, but he went ahead and did Ventura. It's the worst machine I ever seen for speed. And with the spinning, it was ridiculous. You couldn't even move the mouse around on the screen or pull down a menu or do nothing. It was so slow.
How
And
the hybrid's doing with Ventura?
SSD fixed it, but it gets, the further you go up the OS chain, if you have one of those 21-inch iMacs and you didn't put in an SSD, it gets worse and worse until it's like it was something was seriously broken. It was, you couldn't actually use the machine even to adjust things, to turn things on and off or check things or run any utility or nothing.
How the hybrid's running?
It was pathetic.
The
Is there a
hybrid's running
fix?
okay on it?
Say again?
The hybrid Macs, the hybrid SSDs, are they running okay on it?
Oh, well, if you got a Fusion drive, then that's an illusion. You get a little 128 gig SSD, and yeah, that makes it usable. But if you don't, and the price of the SSDs is dramatically unbelievable.
What's going on with keeping the screen?
500 gig SSD, $30. 1 terabyte SSD, $70.
What about,
Very cheap.
how about the screens? Are they still falling out when you repair them?
No, when I got the correct glue, we ordered off of eBay, the Apple OEM glue. Works perfect.
Good.
Works perfect.
Yeah, we haven't had any complaints.
No,
Not since we switched to those.
no. So you got one. You don't have to buy the thermal sensor or the adapter bracket. You just $10 for the glue, and depending on what size SSD you need.
Yeah, my
And
brother has a Fusion, and I was
boom.
thinking of having him updated to a straight SSD.
Even if you have a lot of stuff on there, it's only a 128 is cache. The rest of it's still spinning. So you have a huge photos library. That's all spinning.
Yeah,
So that can be slow.
he hasn't complained, so I guess maybe I'll leave well enough
Yeah,
alone.
no, you would know if it's when it's, for some reason, it's not universal. Some of them get really bad slow and they're worse than others.
Huh.
Back even in Big Sur, I'd see people go to Big Sur and it would get like broken. And you know when it's broken, it's like you can't use it. It's basically you actually can't use the computer.
Boy.
I've had success just using the USB 3 with an SSD drive externally on the unupgradable Mac that we have.
On these machines that get so slow, even if you put a USB 3 external SSD on the machine that's functioning slowly and boot off of that, it's a huge improvement just to do,
Well,
do
this
some
is
maintenance
this,
and you know, do run some utilities or whatever you're going to do.
right. And as I've said before, it's a mid 2014 Mac Mini, and you can't open those up worth a damn. So that's what we did, and it works fine.
Yeah, it works fine. Yes,
Mhm.
USB 3, it's much better than 2. 2, it's still pretty, you know,
Right. Yeah.
but 3 is pretty fast.
Jane
Yeah.
Powell made a comment. I don't want her to leave before I ask her a question. So, Jane, you said you're going to go to fix that Mac for your phone. You're muted. Just touch the space
Yeah,
bar. And that'll-
yes, I've been debating whether to go ahead and get the Pro 14 or to go ahead and get a new battery for my iPhone 11 Pro.
Oh, well, you're on the cusp, but the new battery would be saving you a little money.
You still have, do you still have Apple Care Plus coverage?
No, I just checked. It was off a year ago.
Yeah, well, fix that Mac will fix you right up.
Yeah, I was thinking, because it only charges to 81% now.
81% is fine. Mine is 80% and it's fine.
I take a lot of pictures, dear one.
Okay.
Goes down fast. I need it for an upcoming trip.
Oh, the reason people buy a new phone is because of the camera. That's why they buy new phones.
I know, and that's kind of what I wanted for the new
The
trip.
iPhone is the
Isn't that what
iPhone.
they say? They say that the Apple iPhone is the camera that lets you make phone calls.
That's what I was just gonna say.
If you tried to buy an equivalent SLR to the iPhone, you'd spend $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, on the other hand, you know, the iPhone 14 Pro Max has a massive battery.
I don't want the Pro Max, it's too big. So who
Okay.
else has
This
the
is the
14
Pro,
Pro?
iPhone Pro. Yeah.
So how many have it and how many like it? I'm just curious. I can't
Well,
get it before December 22nd right now.
Oh. Well, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. It's works well.
Yeah, I'm very happy with mine. The battery seems quite good. Although
Since you take tons of pictures, it would seem like upgrading from the 11 to the 14 would be a no-brainer at this point.
Well, yes, but I have a friend that wasn't happy with her 14 Pro, so I was just curious.
What didn't you like about it?
She didn't really say, but
Well, it's a good time to buy it. You got till January to take it back.
Yeah,
If you don't
you
like
got
it,
to-
you can use it for a month.
Yeah,
True.
Go Android.
You know, the other
month
thing,
and a half.
the other thing that's nice about the 14 is that it does not use SIM cards. Now, if you're going to be traveling abroad and you wish, you can go into what the British call a bucket shop, and you can have them put a second line on that phone without having to take a SIM card out or anything, and use that locally. Additionally, if you sign up for a free Google Voice number with Google, you can make free phone calls back to the United States using that number. I have a G Voice number. I use it to call Europe all the time.
Rick,
On
did
the
you
other
have a
hand,
problem?
anybody who uses WhatsApp, you have free voice and video calling anywhere in the world, and as well as texting. And I mean, you can send documents. It's fantastic. And almost all the rest of the world uses WhatsApp except people in the US.
Yeah,
But-
I have WhatsApp, but I don't know anybody who uses it.
Everybody I know uses it.
It's
Yeah, but
Facebook. That's
it's
why I don't use
proprietary,
it.
so you can't call somebody on a regular phone. They have to have WhatsApp, right?
Yes.
Oh,
It's a closed system.
Rick, did you have any problems with your eSIM recognition when you got the phone?
no, but it took about 45 minutes for it to set in.
Do you know the iPhone 11 has an eSIM, has a physical slot, but it also has an eSIM. So you can, anything you do with the iPhone 14, you can do with an 11. You just use the eSIM slot.
What's the benefit
Yes,
if you went somewhere traveling, they didn't have any, you went into a little shop and all they had was like a little SIM, and you could just pop it in there.
I'd like to show Jane on my iPhone 14 Pro. So if I can get this to show up, do
We
you
can
see
see it.
those four little circles there at the bottom?
Yes.
You know, so those are focal lengths. The one I'm looking at it on the left, I'm not sure if it's the right or not, but the wide angle one is 0.5. The one that's dark is 1 time, then followed by that is twice, and then the one on the end is 3 times the telephoto. So you actually, just by touching one of those buttons, can go from being wide angle to 6 times as close. And I find as a photographer that that's sort of like having a zoom lens on the camera.
Well, they're actually,
there's
there's 3 actual lenses, those 4 positions. One of them is an interpolation between the 2. It blends them.
Exactly, but they have so much resolution
Right.
in it that they're able to do that without any loss of
Right.
quality.
Yeah,
Not
my
losing
11
quality because of the
has the
digital?
3. My 11 just has the 3, so I.
Mhm.
Computational photography.
Yeah.
Peter,
Yes.
and they get any loss because of the digital zoom?
I don't even know if it has that
I-
anymore, does it?
Between 1 and 2, I haven't experienced anything in terms of what I do, but and they say that it literally isn't lost, that they some kind of an engine or whatever, but they're able to get the double focal length without loss. And whether that's so or not, I can't say from experience for sure, but it looks really good to me.
Well, they got a lot of pixels to play with. It's got some ridiculous amount of pixels. 40, what is it, 40 megabytes or something ridiculous?
It is amazing. And if you take a photo and it's well focused, you can put that on your computer and just zoom in and in and in and in on it. And it takes a long time before it'll begin to pixelate.
You can crop the hell out of it. It still looks good.
Mhm.
This is a picture I took in pitch darkness the other night of some
Oh,
raccoons
okay.
on the top of a building.
Huh.
And it was in pitch black, but I heard them scrambling up there. And so I
This picture.
snapped the picture, and that came out pretty darn good.
Yeah, it did.
Is it a special setting to do the night photography,
No,
Rick?
no, I just did it automatically.
Yeah, wow.
I have another question, and this has happened to me with photos I just took in the last 2 weeks. They're not all uploading to my computer. They always have in the past, but I was trying to for some specific pictures, and I realized they weren't on my computer. Any ideas there? Because in the past,
I have an idea.
I've made no changes, so.
Are they
What I'm
HEIC?
finding is using image capture to download off the iPhone. We have, our iPhones are 64 gigs, and a lot of the stuff's going to the cloud, and it seems to hang when I try to convert it onto the Mac using image capture. What I finally figured out is it's downloading it from the cloud, so it's going to take a while. So the next phone's going to have a lot more memory.
Well, mine has 256, so I
You
don't.
should have.
Now, did you go
Did
to
you-
your iCloud account and look at your pictures there to see?
Yeah,
if
the pictures are in the iCloud account and I can download them there. But what I found is the earlier pictures that I took on the iPhone
I meant Jane.
download quickly.
I meant Jane. If
Oh,
you can.
I'm trying to
troubleshoot
remember.
it.
I looked and I can't remember. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, well, you need to go to the iCloud. If your pictures are in the iCloud and not on the Mac, then you've got a connection issue between the Mac and iCloud. If the pictures are not on iCloud, then you've got an issue between the camera and your central storage.
Maybe I just need to shut the computer all the way down and.
I
Oh, yeah,
restart
always-
everything.
yeah, do a
sign
restart.
into iCloud on the web and see if your pictures are there and you can download them from there.
Because I can't remember. What I did was I sent them, airdropped them from my phone to my computer because I wanted to send them to someone whenever I edited them on the computer.
Well, if you airdrop them, they don't end up in your photo library unless you put them there. You're just sending them to your download folder.
Right, it'll be in downloads.
Well,
So-
no, I just sent like 5 to my Mac, and they were on the computer and in my photos.
Did you take any videos?
Did I take? I think there were some videos on there. Yes.
So I have somebody, I went to their house a couple days ago, then he got a brand new iPhone and he has a really slow DSL connection. And so we tried to set it up to sync and it was taking a really long time. Then he called me later after I went home. I said, this might take a while, a couple days. And he had 15 videos that were 1 hour and he was trying to upload them off his DSL connection. I said, that's not going to work. So he had to go in and he didn't want them anyway.
Do they
So
still
he did-
have DSL?
He
The
has
longest it-
DSL. I told him he needs to get AT&T. He's AT&T. He needs to switch to fiber.
The longest video I think was 1 minute and 28 seconds.
Okay, well that one. And what's your internet connection?
Who knows?
You
No,
can-
check
Who
it. Go to
I haven't checked for a while.
go to Google and do type in speed test and check your internet connection. See how fast it is.
Who's your carrier, Jane?
You don't want to know. AT&T.
It's what?
AT&T, and I hate it.
Is it DSL over the phone line? Old
No,
school?
no.
You did get fiber?
I don't know if it's fiber, but it's not DSL.
That's your only choice with AT&T is
Yeah, that's
DSL or
AT&T,
fiber.
That's all they got is DSL or fiber.
I think it's fiber. I don't know.
Well, if it's fiber, it's stupid fast.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a
both
minute.
ways.
Up
No,
and
no, no,
down.
no, I'm wrong. My Wi-Fi is Astound,
Well, you're on Astound. Well,
but my
that-
my iPhone is on the AT&T.
Yeah.
so Astound has different levels that you can pay for. I went to somebody's house years ago and it was so slow and they had Astound. I said, there's something wrong here. Well, they were paying for like dial-up speed over Astound for $10 a month.
No,
You
mine's
can
more
pay
than
for
that.
different levels of speed.
Yeah.
Right.
I noticed my computer was running slow and I have Astound too. And we eventually called and they had to send a technician out and fix it. So you
I
might want
used to have problems with Astound. I fired them. They were too expensive. The fiber is I haven't had any problems with the fiber. It's like
Yeah.
none.
Boy, I wish I had fiber in my neighborhood.
You know how long it takes? These are 2-hour videos, Zoom. It used to take me half an hour to an hour to upload them and I'd go for a walk and come home after. Now it takes me, guess how long?
how long?
30 seconds.
30 to 60 seconds instead of half an hour.
What did you
Yeah,
do?
yeah. Brag away, brag away.
I just want to make it known that it's the same speed up and down.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
Frontier.
those of us that don't have fiber available where we live
Yeah.
are go, yeah.
Yeah, but
Come on, bring us the fiber and then tell us how great it is.
Yeah,
you have
we have the
Comcast.
option
You
of
can
both
get
Frontier,
gig speed.
Frontier for fiber or Spectrum for cable. I have the Frontier.
Oh, you have 2 in your neighborhood, Ken?
Yeah, we have cable or fiber.
We have 3. We have Wave, which has fiber to the house, which we were on, and AT&T fiber, and we have Comcast also. With the Comcast comes in on a cable, on a coax.
The problem with Frontier, everything's great except we don't get Dodgers, we don't get Lakers, but we do get Pac-12, which is
For
worth
TV.
on the TV end, right?
For some reason, Don Chu is not able to join Zoom for the last 2 weeks. He just texted me.
That
Don't
doesn't
know.
tell us much.
Why is he not joining?
What happens when he tries, he's got to tell us what happens. It's the error message. How do you, did he just text you or something?
Yeah,
Tell him to try logging on now, and we'll keep an eye out for him and see what the deal is.
try again while we're
Upload.
watching.
Zoom has had several updates in the last several weeks.
Yeah, almost.
I think there were 3 updates in 1 week, in 3
Yeah.
days.
Almost daily, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Check for updates.
especially if you upgraded your OS.
Are you getting an error message? Question mark.
We had that sometimes somebody upgraded their OS, you know, went to Ventura or whatever it was at the time, and they didn't upgrade their Zoom and it didn't work. And then they upgraded Zoom and it did work.
How's Ventura upgrade working? I'm still sitting on Monterey waiting for.
Don't do it. It sucks.
What?
System settings suck.
Oh, what I found out, you can use the system preferences from Monterey and it supposedly will work in Ventura.
You can't find anything in there. You have to use the find
come
command.
on.
Take the one from Monterey and put it into Ventura and it'll work.
It may work, but that's really dangerous.
You know,
Modifying your
take a-
system settings was something that wasn't designed because it doesn't have everything that the new settings has. There's
doesn't?
new-
Take a half hour and go through a tutorial, you'll get it. It's
What
all
about
there.
Gary's
I
tutorial?
haven't updated yet, not because of that, but the last number of systems have been so buggy when they first come out. I'm waiting for 0.1s all the time now. Whereas
Well, it's
before it'd come out, I'd grab it and go.
Did you see where Jane put in chat? She has 92.98 upload and 20.07. That's kind of low, isn't it?
No, it's not.
The opposite, 92.98 download and 20.7 upload.
Yeah.
If you while you're running Zoom, you're probably showing low because you're using some on your Zoom right now.
No, that's what you had. So do you have cable internet?
No, she has
Yeah.
Yeah, she
92
does.
is not that
Wave.
good.
Wave.
Cable
I have-
internet here with
I
Comcast.
have Comcast Internet Essentials, and I have 60 down and about 6 to 10 up, and it's fine. But,
And
I like it because it's
750
free.
down.
What?
I'm getting 647 here with Comcast
Well, but
for download.
mine is throttled because it's this Internet Essentials, which is free. So it's it's capped at about 60 megabits per second.
I'm running 200 up and down, thought about 500 or gig, but there's only 2 of us. And, you know, it's very reliable, so I'm hesitant to change something that works consistently. Although the texts tell me that 500 is fine, which it wasn't when it first came out.
So what do you need? What do you need that much speed for? Just for fast downloads?
That's about it for big files. Other than that, I really don't need it. You know, there's just 2 of us here, and sometimes we'll both be streaming, but it's more than plenty.
Because I'm finding that streaming HD with my 60 megabits is fine. It's
Yeah, you
fine.
need about
I can be downloading stuff, and I can be watching HD TV simultaneously without any problems.
HD needs about 5, and that's it. If
Yeah,
you-
and I think
if you're
even
going to 4K,
4K.
you need 25.
Yeah, so it still would be fine with my 60.
I have no problems with the 200. Other than when it's a big file, it takes a little bit longer, but you know, I'm sort of taking the approach, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, Jane's you're paying for 250 and you're getting 92 down.
Is
That's
that
for a
with
phone call.
Wi-Fi or is that hardwired?
Pardon?
Is that a Wi-Fi or hardwired?
Hardwired.
Oh, okay, then you're sure.
So when he says hardwired, Jane, that means you're connected by wire from your modem to your computer.
Yes,
Ethernet, yeah.
Yeah.
Ethernet
Okay,
cable.
you're not getting your money's worth.
No.
obviously.
Well,
The
wait
first
till you're
thing I
not.
would do, first thing I would do is reset your modem. Turn it off and turn it on. Not now, you'll lose it.
No, I won't.
but
Restart
later.
everything and test it when you're not using Zoom
Okay,
and you're
Yeah.
not watching TV.
okay.
Depends on how your TV is.
Everything but
All our
that off.
AT&T Direct TV stream boxes are wireless. And they
Also,
work great. I didn't think it would work, but it does. And so
also a difference in depending upon which website you use. You can use speedtests.net, or there's another one called speedof.me, speedof.me, and you'll get different readings between the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
It depends what route, where they use, where they're testing to.
And how many lines they have and whether they aggregate it or not. And how they aggregate it.
So
And if
Jane,
you're
do you
using-
carry an external battery so you can keep charging your phone when you're using it a lot?
Oh, yes. I have a big multi that I got several years ago that I could charge when I travel. And I used it a lot on my United UK trip because I took lots of pictures and charged while I was in the bus.
I have a question if there's time for it.
There appears to be.
Okay.
Let me ask Ann a question. Ann, do you have a DVD reader?
You're
I
muted.
could find one at the office, I'm pretty sure.
Because I may have that iTunes stuff on an old DVD. And I could just make you a copy of it. There's a whole procedure you have to go through with the installer, and you have to actually extract the app out of the installer to make it work.
Mm.
But
And I
you
can
should,
pull that out with I forget the name of the app I use for that.
There's El Capitan machines at the office that has iTunes on it. You can just plug it into that.
Yeah, that's
Well,
But
maybe.
before they go away, I'm gonna e-waste them.
well, the later iTunes wouldn't do it. It's
But-
one of the
but-
earlier versions.
but before you do that, you ought to try that hack, that tip they put on the BBS today, because it makes it so easy to move apps around. It really,
You guys interrupted Peter in his question.
Well, if you're not finished with the last, you know,
It's good, it's good. We'll figure this out later.
okay. I have been using 1Password for many years.
mhm.
And a week ago, I encountered a big issue. What started it was I decided I needed to make my master password stronger. So I went ahead and looked into instructions online from 1Password on how to do that, how to change your password. And following the information, I changed the password. This was on my master machine, the desktop. And somehow some kind of corruption got into the 1Password app, and I was unable to log into it online. I did have a version of it on my hard drive, an app that I downloaded, and I was able to get to fortunately, all my logins. So I hadn't lost them, but I wasn't able to get in online. When I would try to log in online, I would get error warnings and whatnot. And so I went ahead and I sent an email to 1Password tech support. And that started, it's actually been a full week, I think, of back and forth, once a day or so communication. And each time it would be a different person working at 1Password, a different name, although they seem to keep on top of the communication. At any rate, they had me create a family account, and then to copy all of my logins from the account that was working, that was on the desktop, over to the family account, and then trash the existing account that was corrupted, and then finally moving from the family account back to a new account. And doing all of that, it seemed to work. However, I still wanted to update my password to make it stronger, the master password. And I asked, how to do this, and they sent me a link to get, the actual, definite instructions. I went ahead and did it, and I succeeded in getting that password on my desktop. I went ahead and went to the laptop, which I'm on now, the MacBook Pro,
You found out.
and went to log in, and it would not accept the password. I thought, what the hell? So I stuck in the original password, and it opened up.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to change it on every machine.
Right, but here's the deal. I go to actually log down a fresh copy of, install 1Password, and it's up in the iCloud, and so it goes ahead and fills in the information with the old password from the iCloud. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I get it out of the iCloud and interfering with the process.
Well, the data is in the iCloud, but your
In
identity
cloud, not in iCloud.
is on each machine.
Well, on this MacBook Pro, I can only get in using the old password.
And
You
you
need to
can't,
change the password on that machine.
yeah.
I can't seem to change it,
So what version of iCloud of 1Password are you using? Are you using 7 or 8?
I am using 7. So I'm
Oh,
Upgrade
you
to
should use
8.
8.
yeah, if I upgrade to 8, I could sort of start over, I guess. Is that right?
I don't think you'll have to. It'll just work better. I encountered that same thing of I improved my password on my Mac, and then I couldn't get in on my phone, and I tried the old password, and that worked on the phone. But I actually upgraded to 1Password 8 and download, and I didn't realize that it didn't actually update 1Password on my phone. It installed a separate app. So I had 1Password 7 and 1Password 8. So I kept using 1Password 7 on my phone, and it worked. But I just today actually looked into this, and I realized that 1Password 8 was also there. When it doesn't say 1Password 8, it just says 1Password.
Yep.
And it's so much better. 1Password 8
is.
for the iOS is so much better.
Here's an issue though, Kenji. So I have my old 1Password 7 account on the laptop. And it has a the master password that's kind of weak. If I don't get rid of it somehow, it's going to hang in there with this weak password on it, and I'd rather it not be there.
Well, 1Password 8 is a whole different deal than 1Password 7, because 1Password 7 is a product that you buy and you own. 1Password 8 is a subscription process.
Right.
Well, right. I already am subscribing for 1Password 7, so.
Well, I ran into the same thing that Kenji did. I changed my password on one machine, and it was remarkable because it didn't carry over to the other machines. And when I updated to 1Password 8, that seemed automatically to eliminate the problem.
Did it get rid of the old 1Password 7?
Yeah, now I have the same password on all my devices.
Yeah. So what I'd advise is that you upgrade 1Password to 1Password 8 on your Mac, on your main machine, on your desktop, whatever the main machine is. You're still going to retain your same vault. That's not going to change. And I would delete 1Password 7 from your iOS or on another Mac. See, I only have it on one Mac and my iPhone and my watch, although I'm not sure why I would want it on the watch, but it's there. So I would, if I had a problem, I would just delete it from the other device, and then once you've subscribed to 1Password 8, you get it on all your devices. I don't know about multiple Macs, but
Kenji, I went ahead and deleted it from the laptop.
okay.
But it was still in the iCloud.
We say iCloud, you mean the cloud, and it's not
Well,
iCloud.
Apple's,
Is it in Apple's or is it in, or is
I
it,
think it's in their cloud.
it's in their cloud?
Their
well,
data is on their server.
it's not in iCloud then. Oh,
I don't think so.
well,
Don Chu is here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think the easiest thing is to just update your machine to 8 all the way around. It's a much not, everybody was complaining about how it was written in a non-Mac format, but I find it just delightful to use.
Okay, well, I'll give it a shot.
I didn't see it. It didn't seem that much improved on my Mac, but today when I went to 1Password 8 on my phone, it was like, oh my God, this is better.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much. I'm just hoping that, yeah, it's somehow the app that is on my laptop just, I've dumped it and yet, it just sort of returns. So, okay.
What do you mean it returns? Where does it return from?
I think what's been happening is, well, what I was wanting to do was to update the password on it to the new master password, but it hasn't let me do that, and I don't know. It's confusing. I think I'm going to try, as you say, just installing 1Password 8 and see if that might.
Why do you? Oh, because you're talking about it's on another Mac.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, there is a iPhone app, for 1Password.
Yeah. I use it on my phone, my iPad, and both of my Macs.
Mhm.
And the new version works quite well.
And do you pay extra for multiple Macs, or is it just one charge for all your devices?
One charge.
You can pay more
And
for.
it'll work on a
users.
PC. It'll work on PC or Unix, Linux, Chrome. It works on all of them. No extra charge.
So do you put it on your Chromebook?
I have it on the Chromebook, but I haven't used it in months.
Okay. Well, thank you. I will give that a try and, let you know next week how it went.
My 1Password.
Okay, I assume that's a piece of paper you're holding up.
Yes,
Right.
that in my mind.
Well, one thing I didn't really realize was there, although it's pretty obvious with 1Password, there is a way you can export your logins.
Yes.
And I think it's really important for anybody using it to do that.
Definitely,
Yeah,
to have a
because,
backup.
if your house burned down or whatever, your machines got wiped out, it would be nice to have that available.
But it's not, but it doesn't reside on your machine. Your data resides in their cloud.
Yeah.
It's the same as the way LastPass works. There's no copy on your computer. It's only one copy in the cloud, and you log into it and it unlocks it everywhere and you use it.
It used to be that it resided on your computer. And that might be, and it might be that it did in 7. So you might be dealing with something different than, because they used to keep your vault on your machine. And I'm not sure whether it was with 7 or 8 that they changed it and made it where it resides in the cloud and you just have the key.
Yeah.
I think on 7 you had your choice.
For my commonly used websites, I just use YKey to write macros to log in.
So didn't it used to work with 1Password? If you wanted to share it between machines, you had to put your password vault in Dropbox or in iCloud, and that's how it's synced between
iCloud,
machines.
Yeah.
It didn't go to their servers. Now they
Right.
changed that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might still actually be on be in iCloud. Have you looked in iCloud.com to see what's there?
Yeah, I was looking around this morning, but I didn't get a definitive look because I was distracted by our water
But what
heater.
they were
Why-
telling you about how you had to copy all your data to a family plan and then copy back seems like an awful complicated workaround that you shouldn't have to do.
Well, I'd like,
Oh, well.
I agree with you, and yet that was what they were
Woulda,
doing.
shoulda,
You know,
coulda.
The corruption, I think, was the issue.
Did it
was-
actually get corrupted, or was it just that you didn't realize that that when you change the password on one machine, it doesn't change it on all the machines?
No, it was immediately after I tried changing the password that I started getting error messages when I tried to log in to 1Password. And it would, you know.
On that machine or other machines?
On that machine.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have pictures of them. You can see what they look like if you want, but I think you're right. I think I have the old version, and that's part of what's messing me up. But
And you set it up a long time ago and you don't remember that you actually did put it in iCloud, and that's how it's syncing. Your database lives in the cloud and then you're syncing it through there, not through the 1Password server.
right.
Yeah.
But okay, assuming that it's in iCloud and that's where it's syncing from, is there any way to let iCloud just get rid of it?
Well,
and-
in the 7 preferences, there's probably a place where you tell it where your vault is, right?
I
I'm
don't
trying to
really
remember.
know.
I don't remember.
You would have to I remember you could do it through Dropbox or iCloud or one or the other or
Yes.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to tell it that. You have to specify where is it, and you point on your hard drive that it's in the cloud folder.
Yeah, well, I know I didn't use Dropbox. So
Well, look in the preferences and see where it says your vault is shared. I bet you that's what's going on.
But what I suggest you do before that is export your data so you have a backup copy. There are 2, and then just upgrade your main machine to 1Password 8. And I think you'll have a backup copy of your data just in case. I think once you do that, you will have automatically moved it away from iCloud or wherever it's, because in the new system, it definitely does not reside on your machine. It resides in the cloud.
So it asks the LastPass model. And so if you download, like Kenji says, your data and it's safe, so you have a copy, and you can log into the LastPass website and see all your stuff, that's where it is. You could nuke LastPass off of all your devices.
You mean
and
1Password?
reinstall it and start over and have it pull down your passwords from their site all over again, start over.
Did you mean 1Password? You were saying LastPass?
Yes, that's 1Password.
okay, but to nuke what's on my machine, basically just trash it, I assume.
Yeah, throw everything away and reinstall
And I
from
guess,
scratch. And
yeah, and okay, as long as I can keep it from reinstalling from the Apple's iCloud rather than,
well, it won't. It'll start over. The new version, like he says, only syncs to 1Password website, where you log in there first, go to whatever their website is, and can you do that in the browser and see your stuff?
I can, although I'm not in 1Password 8 at this point. In 1Password 7, I can do that, yes.
I would not trash all those apps first. I would upgrade your 1Password account first.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's expecting to go. And it'll, in the process of doing it, it'll move your vault to where it wants to put it.
So if you have a subscription, by default, you pay for the subscription. Don't you automatically get authorized to use 8 just because you're paying your subscription?
You're authorized to use it, but you don't have to use it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I was considering moving to it
Well, that's
today,
what I
but I
would do.
thought maybe I try to clear up this question first, because
Yeah.
how do I
The
keep?
nice thing about the LastPass model and the 1Password vault on their servers is you can go anywhere and go to any browser, install their extension. You don't have to have your database vault with you or know where it is. It sucks it off the internet on any machine in the world, on any browser you want. It just works.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, and I assume that's what 1Password 8 will do.
Yep.
Yeah, they changed their model.
Okay. Okay.
There's hope yet, Peter. It'll be fine.
We'll straighten it out.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
I've found that now that I have, my wife and I have these iPhone 14 Pros, that they're taking up more data. And I assume that 5G sucks more data than.
In your settings, you can
just faster.
you can disable 5G data use.
Mhm.
But why would you
Instead of-
want to do that?
I had it. It defaults to don't use it for 5G, but I turned it back on because this battery on this 14 Pro is super. What is it? Maybe 60% by the time I go to bed at night and put it on the charger.
Mhm.
It's just
It wouldn't use more data because it would just suck the same amount of data faster.
well, the 5G uses more battery power.
Okay, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Not
so-
data.
So
We can
if
live
you're
with
worried
that,
about
yeah.
your battery,
Okay.
you can turn off the 5G data use.
So what's your concern, Peter?
Well, I do have a question about, well, in data usage, because, of course, I'm on Xfinity and they all want you to buy more and more data plan, higher data plans. My wife then has the same phone that I do. And looking at the Xfinity bill, I'm using, 7 times as much data as she is. And I'm trying to figure out where the hell am I using that data that she isn't?
How much are you using every month?
Well, we're under 2 gigs. It's not a hell of a lot.
2 gigs
What's
is
your-
nothing.
what's-
2 gigs
what's
is
your-
nothing.
What's
I
your
use
cap?
600
What's your amount that you're paying for per month? Are you going over your limit?
We pay about 17 a month on a good month.
Yeah,
and
but you
more
pay
like-
for X amount of data. How
I
much are you
think it's
paying for?
1.2 terabytes, isn't it, that you get?
On the phone. He's talking about the phone.
The plan with the Xfinity.
Oh, Xfinity.
Yeah,
Phone.
yeah. So we're getting, we're buying it by the gig, I guess. And usually with the old phones, the 10s, we both get through a month and not use more than a gig. And so we're using more now, and that's okay. But I'm just wondering, why does it show in the billing that I'm using so much more than she is?
Check her settings.
You can go into
Background
the
refresh.
settings and you can check how much each app is using.
Yeah.
Check your
Yeah.
background refresh and you may have it on and hers is off.
Now,
You're watching
Background-
YouTube videos when you're not on Wi-Fi or something like that.
Well, we don't watch videos on the phone, really.
Well, you can go into settings
Monthly-
and it will show you how much data each app is using.
I just got my consumer cellular bill yesterday, and
Uh-huh.
somebody asked me, how much data are you getting? And I get 10 gigabytes for $40 a month,
That's
unlimited everything.
We have 2 gigs between us for the carryover and we never go over.
So I just started with consumer cellular yesterday. I switched over from T-Mobile and I got the 5 gigabyte plan because if I exceed the 5 gigabytes, it just automatically
Automatic.
bumps me up. So there's no downside to taking a smaller plan.
No, and no penalty.
No penalty. So how come you have a 10 gigabyte plan
I
instead
don't
of
use
5?
10. I never get there.
I thought you said you're on the 10 gigabyte plan.
I have a 10 gigabyte plan.
So why aren't you on the 5 gigabyte plan? So if you don't exceed 5, you're paying 20 something a month instead of 40.
Because I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Just in case.
You're
Yeah,
rich.
that's a good
I
one.
understand it.
Videos, I'll
Consumer
watch
cellular.
I'm gonna switch to unlimited with Verizon. Uh, They've got a military discount, which I can get on it, which knocks 25 bucks a month off of it.
Yeah.
So Peter,
Did somebody say turn off background something or other?
Turn off your background refresh, that'll help your battery life.
Oh, but the battery life, but it doesn't change the data usage.
Well, it
but
should
Peter,
change again,
if
just
you go
because
to
it's not
settings,
refreshed.
I'm sorry, so if you go to settings cellular, you'll see how much data you're in your current period you've used. And if you scroll down, you can see how much
Exactly.
data each app has been using.
Yeah, and
I can't see it.
I've actually looked at that, and
Oh, I have an idea here.
And which apps jump out at you as using a lot.
well, on my phone, Safari uses the most.
Peter, check your settings under settings cellular.
Okay,
That's what you're looking at.
that's what I'm looking at.
Current period, how much download?
Actually, well, and it's showing cellular data, current period 27.4 gigabytes. Well, I don't understand that because
But
Well,
I think the current period is until you manually reset it.
Right, so then you just
And
go
I'm
down the list. So if Safari is the top, that's what you're doing. This, how much for Safari?
Safari 6.3 gigabytes.
All right, well, my Safari is only 1.4.
Wow.
So you're doing something in Safari that's sucking 5 more gigs than me.
The system services are taking 5.3 gigabytes.
Mine's 6.8.
Mine's 10.6.
Yeah.
But my Safari is only 2.6.
My Safari is 1.1.
Hey, you know, is your wife when she's using, well, it's you that's using the data. Are you quitting Safari when you set the phone aside, or do you let it keep running?
Oh, I might let it keep running. Yeah.
Okay, next to each of the apps, there's a green switch. You can turn off apps and not allow them to use cellular data. Well, they only access the internet when you're on Wi-Fi.
Right. Oh, if they're on, will they be using cellular data even though you're using Wi-Fi?
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
So you're doing something in Safari, that's your main culprit.
It definitely is. Mail is 3.2.
Whatever you're doing in Safari is using a lot of data. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this current period thing, how do you reset it?
Scroll all the way down.
Oh yeah, reset statistics.
Current period, my current
Also,
period is,
if you
my
go to
current period
Safari-
is the last 4 days. What's your current period?
3 days and 21 hours,
Well, it's
Also,
which
if
it
you go
says
to
the
Safari-
lifetime. Oh, this is call time. That's call time.
Oh, yeah. You're
Yeah.
right.
If you go to the Safari in your settings, scroll all the way down to clear history and website data.
Yeah, but that's different than
That's
I want
different.
to reset my cellular usage.
Right.
Clearly what you're doing something in Safari that's using data on your phone.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're not on Wi-Fi, so that's when you're not at home or on Wi-Fi. You're doing something outside of Wi-Fi that's on Safari.
So
What is your homepage, Peter, on Safari? Is it something that's downloading information constantly?
I don't think so. I don't have.
Oh, here's the other thing is, are you on Wi-Fi right now at home?
Yeah.
So I've seen people not be on their home Wi-Fi and uses their cellular data like crazy because they're not, everything goes over cellular.
Yeah. Well, I
So
actually.
somewhere you're going where you should be on Wi-Fi where you're not, and you log into Wi-Fi. So every time you go there, it uses Wi-Fi. Maybe it's not home, maybe it's somewhere else.
I actually made a point of leaving or physically turning off the cellular as much of the time as I could, and only turning it on when I was walking around downtown or whatever.
You might turn off Safari cellular so you couldn't do that. And then whenever you go somewhere, it says, I'm not connected to the internet. That's because you turned off cellular. You're only
Yeah.
allowed to do that on Wi-Fi.
Right, okay.
Do you use Facebook in your browser on your phone?
I hardly ever go to Facebook, but it's probably,
It would show up. My number one actually is Facebook over Safari, double.
On your you use Facebook in Safari on your phone?
No. My settings in cellular data, Facebook is 3 gigs, Safari is only 1.5.
Okay,
I don't use Safari on the phone. I do use Facebook.
the
You have a
Facebook app.
loudspeaker?
So you can, but I have YouTube turned on because I use the habit if I go and see if there's any new stuff on YouTube, I don't allow that on cellular. It says, sorry, you're not connected to the internet. I go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not on Wi-Fi.
yeah, my Facebook is about, well, it's 539 megabytes.
Yeah, you're not, you're clearly it's your Safari.
Yeah, Apple News, by the way, is 548 megabytes, and I never use it, but can't.
But Peter, how much is your bill running?
Well, the bill is not bad, $34 or something like that, and when it's 2 gigs.
I bet you turn off Safari cellular and notice the next time you go to use Safari where you are that it says you can't connect to the internet. You're doing something that's on Safari when you're not on Wi-Fi somewhere.
Right. That's an excellent idea.
Do you think?
Then you'll go, oh, I should be on Wi-Fi here and I'm not.
Then you say, why is it trying to connect?
Right. Does the mail app, Apple Mail, does that continually roam if you're on?
Yes, it'll get mail all the time.
You can set it for however often you want it to check.
I have mine set to just check only when I open up the app for mail.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, all you really need to look at is the top items, the biggest item first, and then what's down from there. And those are your biggest culprits.
Yeah,
and then anything else in the list that you say, I don't want to do this when I'm not on Wi-Fi, just turn them off.
Right. And mostly it's, system services, Safari and mail, and those are all the big ones.
You might want to get a mail when you're not on Wi-Fi, when you're in the car. System services, that's actually the highest for me. That's above everything. Mine's 7 gigs.
Yeah.
So I just tried pressing that button, reset statistics, the very bottom of that window. And now that zeroed everything out. So now it can start tracking it from right now. What data I'm using from now forward.
If you tap on system services, it breaks it down. Each one of the services, documents and sync is taking half of my system. So iCloud Drive is syncing all my documents.
Where are you looking?
All the time.
Where are you looking?
Tap right in that settings, cellular settings. Tap on system. The little right arrow will give you more information. So
next to what?
System services.
Oh, system services.
And you get a breakdown of all the things. It's a big long list of all the things it's doing.
Okay. Since I just reset it right now, all it's showing is push notifications.
Okay. Time and location is taking 2 gigs. So it's updating personal hotspot, 2 gigs.
But how long is your current period?
4 days. I've been having my hotspot on. Maybe it's on. I need to turn it off. It should be off.
Yeah, but if it'll show as a hotspot if you've got other devices.
My hotspot is off. That's weird.
Yeah, but it's because your Mac and your iPhone and your iPad and your other devices talk to each other, and it uses the hotspot even though it's not turned on, I think.
Really? Well, I do that constantly. I'm logged into probably at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen Macs. Depending on which one's on, it synchronizes.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of them on any given time, but there's a bunch of them. I pull them out and then I do software updates and or whatever
But my bigger data usage is Overcast, which is my podcast app, because I subscribe to a long list of podcasts and I have them set to automatically download each new episode. So
Why the heck would time and location be taking 2 gigabytes? The same as documents in sync.
Really shouldn't.
Yeah, it's a puzzle.
Is
isn't it?
that the map settings location when it's, or Find My?
so which is that's using all that data?
Time and location.
Is that under cellular?
Yeah.
So how many of your apps do you have active location services? And how many of them do you allow to
I turn all that
check
stuff off.
locations when at all times in the background as opposed to only while using? That's probably why all that data is going.
Mine are mostly never, and a few while using, and that's it.
Because since I was doing Uber and then I was an Uber driver and then I was doing DoorDash last year or earlier this year. Those apps, those GPS-based two-way apps just gulp data and power.
I have them all set to only use while using or never.
Are you using maps?
All of them.
Google Maps or Apple Maps?
I use Apple Maps.
Because if you use navigation, that's going to use a lot of data.
But I don't leave that. I don't leave the house for days at a time.
Well, why don't you reset it and then track how it goes going forward?
That's crazy. I went through and set these all to only when using or never.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Um,
You cleared all the apps, Peter?
The weather is always, I wonder if that's doing, I have weather alerts on. You turn that on to allow always, and then if it starts raining, it says it's gonna rain in 10 minutes or rain's gonna stop in 10 minutes.
Well, for that to work, I would think it would have to be accessing location services at all times.
Constantly, I wonder if that's what it is.
I'll bet that's what it is.
That's the only thing.
Hard reset on the phone.
System services, all these system services are on. Find My.
Try a hard reset on the phone.
and right.
Share My location and Find My are on all the time.
So Ken,
I have to clear all the apps, then do a hard reset and see if it helps. I always do a hard reset after a system update.
So what does a hard reset actually do that a regular power cycle doesn't do?
Good question.
Yeah, how do you do your hard reset, Ken?
A quick setting of volume up, volume down, and then hold the power button till it shuts down. You see the Apple logo.
Oh, okay. The two.
So
power down.
currently, you do tap on system services in location, it tells you the things are currently using location. Compass calibration, Find My Phone, location-based alerts, location-based suggestions, motion calibration and distance, network and wireless, Share My Location, and significant locations, routing and traffic, and improved maps are all running location services right now.
Do you share your location? Do you share your location with other people?
Yes.
That's that could be using a lot of data.
Not with me.
How do you get to that?
Yeah, but
Wow.
Safari shows Safari to be using the data. Have you tried swiping up to kill Safari?
I don't have Safari up. I don't keep any apps open. I'm one of those people that just quit everything all the time. There's nothing running.
I do the same thing. And everybody says that's how you use up battery, because you have to restart them all when you use them.
System service is running all kinds of crap in the background. That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is getting to be a very long recording.
That's true.
Oh, we're still recording. We should definitely get somebody who has a video editing app to trim these videos so that we're not putting all this embarrassing.
It's all Apple stuff we were talking about.
Yeah, but we're putting up all this personal and embarrassing chit chat that does not need.
Nobody ever watches. You go look at the YouTube. Nobody ever watches any of this stuff.
Famous last words.
Literally.
Can I make a comment to Ann?
Oh, to end, yes.
I want to thank her for getting me in. I don't know what she did, but I'm in your group right now.
She didn't do anything. You did something. She told you.
No,
What
I
was it?
I texted him the link that was in the email.
Yeah, and then
You-
I haven't been getting John's email, the Sunday one. I don't know why, but what you gave me, Ann, I just got right in. Thank you.
Well,
What
that
is your
link
what?
can you not interrupt, please? That link will work next week and the week after. If you just save that link, you can
Okay,
use it every time.
will do. Thank you.
And the best way to save it is to, up in the top left corner of your screen, click on the green shield and it'll pop open and you see where it says copy link, and then paste that somewhere into like your note app or something. Or you could just copy where it says invite link, you copy that.
Or
Okay,
make a web location file.
all right. Thank you.
Did you not get the invite at 8 o'clock this morning?
No,
What email address are you using?
DON.
We're still recording.
DON.chu 43 at Gmail.
It's recording.